A young man grips a wooden sword confidently, declaring he trained for a whole month to be a hero. His opponent, a relaxed older man leaning on his own wooden sword, warns him not to lose to some regular old dude. Two women watch anxiously nearby, one sweating nervously. The young man leaps forward, shouting he's coming. He swings his sword fiercely, prompting the two women in surprise at his speed. The older man observes silently, thinking that in just a month the young man has become this quick and must really be a hero. The young man shouts, "Gotcha!" But the older man retorts that he didn't succeed like that. Suddenly, the older man kicks the young man, who falls backward with a shocked yell. The older man introduces himself as Riku Takiyanagi, an average, boring office worker, or at least he was supposed to be. The young man lies sprawled on the ground, stunned, while the two women look on in shock. The man acknowledges that pure speed might overwhelm castle knights, but straight-line movement is easy to counter. He reflects that somehow he's back in another world again. Turning toward the castle, he calls out for the next challenger. He smirks, dismissing the older man as just some middle-aged dude, while wondering how this all began. About a month ago, he admits he was an idiot, a loyal fool with a bleeding heart. A junior at work got into trouble, and he stayed late to help her. On the way home, he ran into high schoolers caught up in some trouble and felt compelled to intervene. Suddenly, he is sprawled on the ground, arms wide, declaring loudly that brave heroes from another world have arrived and that they've been waiting for them. The group of young people, shocked and confused, ask if he means them. He notes how they got dragged into this again. A regal woman introduces herself as Localis, princess of the Localis kingdom, explaining she summoned them. She reveals their world is currently falling under the demon lord's control. Only chosen heroes can defeat this demon lord, and only a hero can stop him. She pleads for their strength, as others kneel in the chamber, emphasizing the dire situation. He blinks in confusion, questioning if the heroes really mean just two people. The group of high school students exchange glances, one noting the heroes are a serious-looking guy and a gal-looking chick. The boy insists they're just regular students, and calling them heroes is an exaggeration. The man wonders about the quiet girl nearby, while the boy admits he was dragged into this by accident. The man smirks, acknowledging there are two of them. The princess explains that people from other worlds have exceptional abilities, and with training, these two can defeat the demon lord quickly. The girl protests, pointing out the old man from the water town was ignored. She demands they speak up, questioning the fairness of being forced to fight without consent. The serious boy agrees, calling the situation one-sided, while the man admires the girl's strong will. The boy argues they can't be ordered to fight out of nowhere, worrying about their families and demanding to be sent back with someone else summoned instead. The man thinks the boy is reasonable and not a fool. The princess smiles gently, commenting the basement is chilly and suggesting they move somewhere else to talk. The princess formally asks the group for their names. The boy responds nervously as the girl states her name plainly. The man and the girl exchange uneasy glances, realizing they're just pawns in this. The princess addresses them respectfully with honorifics, acknowledging their reluctant acceptance of their roles. The princess reveals that the two were not truly chosen, and explains that the kingdom follows a legend to summon outsiders when in peril. She warns they won't return home until the demon lord is defeated. The group reacts with shock and confusion as the princess begs them to defeat the neighboring country now under the demon lord's control. The girl protests loudly, questioning the target, while the man mutters in exasperated, "Damn!" in disbelief. They look up in astonishment at the sky, noticing 3 moons hanging above them. The boy and the girl express awe, confirming this place is undeniably another world. The group stands together, overwhelmed by the surreal reality of their situation. The man contemplates the gravity of their situation, noting the difficulty of traveling between worlds and the reality of 3 moons. The princess clarifies that only 2 of them are heroes, and the others were mistakenly summoned without powers. The man worries about being overwhelmed, while the princess suggests it's time for her to intervene. The man sarcastically questions if the castle will simply protect the non-heroes, while the princess confirms they will be treated with utmost care and protection at the castle. The man tries to calm himself, noting the cold attitude toward non-heroes. The group feels a mix of relief and unease as they follow the princess deeper into the castle. A man introduces himself as Riku Takiyanagi with a confident smile. A girl asks his name. Then he turns to a quiet girl, noting her calmness amid the chaos. He confirms her name is Mizukake Igohara and mentions another boy named Futa. The girl protests, frustrated she isn't fighting, while Riku encourages her to hang in there, saying Mizukake is in the toughest spot among them. Tension rises as the group questions their promised protection. A girl shouts in anger, demanding answers. Riku calmly asks why they think that, implying a deeper plan. The princess reminds them only the 2 heroes can defeat the demon lord, showing a diagram of the threat. The group wonders what the whispers mean, and a girl is scolded for being too loud. A sinister figure explains that once they power up, no one in this world can stop them. Riku thinks the figure is smart, not an idiot. The villain reveals they need hostages to control someone with immense power. The group reacts in shock. Realizing the two heroes are being targeted deliberately, the princess tells them to quiet down as the tension mounts. Riku restrains the angry girl, telling her to stay calm and not fall into their trap. He reveals he's seen similar situations before, urging them to keep their guard up wherever they're taken. The princess opens a grand door, inviting them inside as the group steels themselves for what lies ahead. The group enters a lavish dining room filled with an impressive spread of food and desserts. A girl gasps in awe, her face lighting up with excitement as she exclaims how amazing everything looks. The others share her astonishment, captivated by the feast before them. The princess invites them to help themselves, prompting the girl to eagerly reach for a treat. Suddenly, a man accidentally trips near her, causing her to drop her food. He apologizes nervously, but she snaps at him, demanding to know his problem. The man warns her not to eat food from those they can't trust, making her freeze in uneasy realization. Riku Takeyanagi reintroduces himself and questions the princess about the neighboring country. He clarifies if they are being asked to defeat this nation rather than the demon lord. The princess explains that every nation, including theirs, is currently engaged in fighting the demon lord's forces. The group wonders why another human nation is being targeted instead of uniting against the common enemy. The princess reveals that negotiations with their neighbor, Erritoria, have broken down, leading to a cold war. The supply of food and goods has become unstable, and they believe Erritoria has sided with the demon lord's army. Riku grimaces, questioning the idea of sending children to kill people based on a mere suspicion. He struggles to accept the situation, especially if the enemy is a human nation and not demons. Shock registers as the group realizes they would be killing people. The princess acknowledges their concern and explains they want them to act as a deterrent. She shows a diagram illustrating how their strength could sway Erritoria's stance if they prove powerful enough. The boy hesitantly agrees, as long as they avoid direct fighting. The man leans back confidently, suggesting they flash their strength and talk peace. The princess admits it looks that way from an outsider's view but insists her duty is to protect her people. The man decides not to press for more information now, while the group looks tense. The man declares the two will undergo training, asking for their consent, which they nervously give. He warns they are not yet promising aid to the kingdom. The princess and an older man sternly caution him not to push his luck. The princess adds there is one more thing to discuss. The princess orders 2 double rooms and insists no one will be left alone. She tells them to be cautious. As they have just arrived, she explains preparations for training will take a few days and urges them to rest and recover until then. A man reports to Lady Localis that the newcomers have been escorted to their rooms as instructed. Another man warns that the adult accompanying the children is a serious problem. Unlike the kids who could have been swayed easily, Localis acknowledges the adult's role as a guardian figure. The man questions if the children truly possess the power to defeat the demon lord despite the legends. Localis urges him to have faith, leaving the man surprised. Localis smiles confidently, telling the man he just needs to trust her. Meanwhile, in a separate room, Riku is addressed by a girl who questions if he's overreacting with suspicion. Riku insists she call him by his first name and accuses her of being angry too. The group discusses the princess hiding something, noting that people who want to make deals always talk like that. They acknowledge they are in another world where Japanese laws and logic don't apply, and magic exists. The girls agree that coercion through magic is possible. Riku suggests having a strategy meeting now that it's just the 4 of them, surprising one of the others. The girl questions how Riku knows so much about this world's workings, noting his calm negotiation is unusual for an adult. Riku warns the group bluntly that they will die here if they aren't careful. He tells them to get smart to survive, causing the others to tense up. Then, turning to a door, he says they must do something first, leaving the group curious and anxious. A man senses the presence of mana in this world, a feeling completely foreign compared to his own. He focuses intently, declaring his ability. Clairvoyant ear. He confirms that no one is eavesdropping, suspecting either they lack the means or are overconfident. When asked how he knows, he bluntly states it's magic. The group reacts with surprise and curiosity. Realizing he can really use magic, a girl excitedly identifies him as one of those magic users. The man is called out for acting like a middle schooler obsessed with fantasy, but he challenges them to witness his magic firsthand. He warns the loud skeptic to quiet down if they want proof, then confidently prepares to summon. Standing tall, he raises his hand to cast a spell. The skeptical girl tries to dismiss it, but a swirling cloud of smoke suddenly appears, startling everyone. As the smoke spirals, the man snaps his fingers, prompting shocked reactions from the group. The small girl suddenly leaps forward with a loud shout, startling the group behind her. Their shocked expressions show they weren't expecting such an outburst. She stretches and cheerfully declares she slept great, then looks around confused, asking where they are. The group stares back in surprise as she floats midair. Then she suddenly lunges toward a man, calling out his name desperately. The man calmly explains that he's glad his magic worked in this world too. The group questions how he can use magic, shocked by the display. He reveals that when he was their age, he was a hero in another world facing a similar situation, not this one. Holding the girl on his thumb, he grins and announces this is his second Ice Sky run. Calling it the middle-aged geezer's round, the group reacts with stunned disbelief as the night sky looms over a distant castle. Riku Takiyanagi introduces himself, revealing it's been 3 days since he arrived in another world for the second time. From his vantage point in a tree, he watches as the training of 2 high school heroes begins. The group below stands ready, while Riku casually eats an apple, observing the scene. The serious-looking young man wielding a wooden sword is Futa Okudera. He has a quiet personality and a strong core, not easily swayed by others. Though he likes running, he admits he isn't good at sports. Futa prepares to strike, gripping his sword tightly as he focuses. Futa swings his wooden sword with force, creating a powerful impact that startles the onlookers. The crowd reacts with awe, praising the incredible sword pressure and calling it the power of a hero. Futa shouts a battle cry as he strikes a training dummy with determination. Futa continues his vigorous training, repeatedly smashing the straw dummy with intense strikes. The dummy breaks apart under his relentless blows. The observers remark that at this rate, even Erritoria won't stand a chance against him. Futa's energy and skill shine brightly as he pushes himself to improve. Himura Kana, a modern-day high school girl with a Gyru vibe, grips her spear with determination despite her fear of being in another world. She recalls how rare it is for a girl to wield a spear. As it's considered a woman's weapon in her country, Kana trains vigorously, shouting battle cries as she swings the spear with surprising strength and precision. Observers marvel at how easily Kana wields the spear despite her slender arms, doubting she could truly perform such moves unless she copied them from a game. Her strikes shatter the training dummies with sharp, precise blows, earning admiration for her skill. Nearby, a muscular man confidently declares they can win and defeat Erritoria. With a woman affirming his words, Futa Okudera reflects quietly, acknowledging that while he's unsure if this is true hero potential, there's no doubt the 2 heroes have received some kind of blessing. He compares their current strength to his own weak past when summoned to another world, realizing all that remains now is his own resolve. Inside a quiet room, a woman with glasses concentrates deeply, her hands poised over a glass of water that begins to ripple and shake. Suddenly, she screams in shock as a man appears behind her, announcing his return with a confident smile. Riku scolds Mizuki for leaving her room without an escort, joking about testing her stealth skills. Mizuki Iguhara, a plain girl dragged into the summoning with the 2 heroes, is introduced. She's an indoor type who enjoys reading and knitting, and practiced archery until middle school due to her strict family. The group marvels at how quickly she learned to produce water magic, with one teasingly calling her a genuine Shinibu, which Mizuki shyly embraces. Riku decides to focus on the other elements first instead of water, explaining the 4 great elements. Fire, water, earth, and wind. The artificial spirit beside him boasts about being created from those elements. Mizuki wonders why she can use magic despite not being a hero, considering 2 possibilities. Either she has hero potential or everyone from another world receives a blessing. Lady Epicalis reminds them that only heroes have power, leaving Riku to question if the princess is mistaken or hiding something. 2 newcomers return home cheerfully, excited about their first day practicing magic and feeling energized as if it were just club activities. Riku, now serious, gathers everyone to say something important, prompting curiosity about his tone. Suddenly, Riku nervously asks Futa whether he likes Kana or Mizuki more, causing all 3, Kana, Futa, and Mizuki, to react with shocked, blushing expressions, stunned by the unexpected question. The tension rises as the girl with braided hair protests loudly, insisting Mizuki is a better match than her, while the boy nervously denies it, calling himself a plain girl unworthy of company. The girl with glasses is shocked by the casual use of her name and questions if the 3 are childhood friends. The boy wonders if the 2 girls are both yielding to each other with a serious tone. He warns that although the castle is safe for now, it's best to speak honestly while they are still alive. The man, with a small floating spirit beside him, tells them to leave their past world behind, expressing his desire to protect the kids from the hardships he endured. He shifts focus to the real topic, preparing to share something important with them. Suddenly, the man declares he is leaving the country, shocking everyone. The girl with braided hair yells in disbelief at his decision to run away alone. He explains it's only temporary and something will happen in a month. The girl angrily scolds him for still holding a grudge, while the boy and the girl with glasses listen intently. The man questions what the princess told them, confirming her command to defeat the Demon King and take down the neighboring country under his control. He reveals his plan to scout the neighboring country, Erritoria, to identify the true enemy firsthand. The group realizes the castle knights intend to fight, contradicting the idea of merely keeping things in check and negotiating. The boy excitedly reacts, understanding the stakes have escalated. The girl explains that the no need to fight rule was just a way to keep them from leaving, warning that if things continue, it will lead to killing people. The boy looks determined as he listens. The man assures them that with a month of training, all three could easily take on the royal knights. He will go to the neighboring country to scout once they can defend themselves. He assigns Mizuki to train secretly with him, Kana to continue training at the castle, and addresses Futa directly. The small girl eagerly asks what about her, but the man warns her not to leave her room to avoid being found by the castle guards. He then tells all three to hand over their smartphones, emphasizing that there's no signal in this world. The girl with braided hair questions the man playing games, who admits he plays because he's a lonely old man with nothing to do on holidays. The man collects their smartphones, telling them to just hand them over. The girl and the small girl comment on how similar the man and the boy are. The man smiles confidently, saying to just watch what he'll do next as he levitates the phones with magic. The phones begin to glow and transform, but when the kids check, nothing seems to have changed. They exchange confused looks, wondering why nothing has changed at all despite the transformation. The woman instructs Mizuki to try using the phone for a moment, then says she'll call her. Mizuki looks puzzled but watches closely as the phone suddenly rings. The woman answers with a cautious hello, while Mizuki, surprised, thinks it was her first time modifying a smartphone, but it worked. The man grins, explaining the phone charges by drawing in ambient mana. Mizuki marvels at the convenience, wishing their world had such phones. The man encourages them to use the phones to keep in touch while apart. The small girl asks if teleportation magic like jump can be used, but the man explains it doesn't work between worlds due to misaligned axes. The man sets a 1-month deadline for them to get stronger. When asked where he's going, he replies with a sly smile that it's just a walk. As he leaves, the girl asks if he needs an escort, but he brushes it off. The woman comments on the man being a weird old man. The small girl asks what kind of hero Riku was. The woman praises Riku as strong and quick-witted, then begins to reveal that by the time he was their age, he was already something significant. The three exchange horrified glances as the grim truth sinks in. Their task involves killing people. The weight of this reality hangs heavily in the air. The ornate ceiling above signals a shift in focus as the scene prepares to move forward. The man resolves to first identify which room belongs to the princess. He strides purposefully through the castle's lavish halls, determined to observe the skill level of the knights and soldiers. His thoughts reveal a need to understand this world's magical system, suspecting it differs from the one he knew before. Training scenes unfold with intense discipline as a stern instructor yells at trainees to get up and push harder. The harsh methods, including feeling pain without armor, emphasize the timeless nature of rigorous training. The man watches from concealment, noting the tension and unchanged training styles. Suddenly, commands to unleash magic spells like Fire Butte and Hail Cluster break the quiet. A commanding voice shouts Aqua Lance. As a trainee channels mana into a sharp, focused image and releases it, the man, still hidden in the bushes, analyzes whether this simplicity is due to an undeveloped magic system or basic training stages. His presence is suddenly detected as a voice demands to know what he is doing, heightening the tension. A shadowed figure commands the hidden man to slowly come out, catching him off guard despite his usual skill at magic concealment. He realizes this country has capable individuals as he raises his hands in surrender. A stern knight, handsome and armored, demands to know what the man is doing there. The man, sweating but smirking, contemplates how to escape this tight spot in the unfamiliar world. A knight clad in armor demands to know what the man is doing. The man, caught off guard, raises his hands and tries to think of a way to talk his way out. The knight recognizes him as the otherworlder everyone is talking about. The man nervously begins to explain, trying to stay calm. The knight angrily accuses the man of rushing out because he needed to relieve himself and then getting lost. The man awkwardly clarifies he hasn't done that yet. Embarrassed by the crude wording, the knight, frustrated but still in control, orders the man to follow him. The man winces, clutching his stomach, and silently praises his own acting. He exhales in relief as they move. The man thanks the knight for saving his life, but the knight retorts that they couldn't let him escape. The knight jokes about the man's good looks contrasting with his foul mouth. They begin walking back, and the knight asks the man's name. The man introduces himself as Takiyanagi Riku, while the knight reveals his name as Pravas, captain of the White Light Knight Order. Riku is surprised that Pravas, a knight captain, wasn't informed about the summoning ritual or the hero's training. Pravas questions if Riku is truly the hero, while Riku wonders if his age makes him seem unlikely. Pravas explains the summoning ritual was beyond their jurisdiction and assumes the princess will explain eventually. He also comments that training the hero seems lax and suggests it might be better to send knights straight into battle. The armored man questions what an otherworldly leader could possibly know, emphasizing the ultimate goal is defeating the Demon King. He warns that if the situation isn't resolved quickly, the demon army will overwhelm them. The man suddenly shouts that they already know this, then quickly covers his mouth, apologizing for his outburst. The man leans back, stating peace depends on negotiations and that they will send the hero into battle, but if that fails, war is inevitable. He mentions his old friend Nimrose is also in Erritoria's Knight Order but admits he'd rather avoid fighting. He suspects something suspicious about the situation. The princess appears, questioning the detention of their otherworldly guest and reminding the captain that she gave no such order. The knight explains he was only guiding the guest to the privy, earning a remark on his dutifulness. The princess asserts that the castle is the nation's heart and that only the hero is allowed to wander freely. The man complains he should have been allowed to find the toilet alone and muses about making himself more disliked since he plans to leave the kingdom soon. He accuses the princess of summoning him without consent and suggests she should improve her summoning accuracy if she only needs the hero. The princess's expression darkens as an older man scolds the guest for insolence. The princess's cold glare causes the man to wonder if he's already hated enough. She apologizes for the inconvenience caused by dragging him there. The man admits he went too far himself. The princess then instructs the knight captain to take charge of the guest, who bows in acknowledgement. The group prepares to move on, leaving the man under the captain's watch. The armored man remarks on the old man's fearless insolence despite having no power. The other man replies that old men have nothing to lose. He notes the king and queen are absent, explaining the queen died when the princess was young and the king is occupied. A maid suddenly questions the armored man about being outside, surprised to see Captain Pravas. The maid blushes and scolds the armored man for his crude words, explaining he was about to relieve himself in the open. The armored man advises calling a maid in emergencies next time. The man watching thinks Pravas doesn't seem like a bad guy. The maid and others react warmly to Pravas, but someone mutters frustration about him. The princess demands an update on the two heroes' training, warning that Riku should watch his arrogant mouth. An older man praises the hero's refined movements, confirming the legends are true. The princess says once the hero's existence is known, the kingdom's morale will rise and neighboring countries will tremble. Two hands clasp in determination. The princess smiles with anticipation, confessing she can't wait for war. The older man stammers, calling her Lady Epicalis in shock. 1 month has passed since training began. An older man reminds Riku that he's been training as a hero for a full month and warns him not to lose to an ordinary old man. Riku casually shrugs off the warning, confident a hero shouldn't lose to someone like that. He grips his wooden sword and calls out, ready to fight. His feet pound the ground as he charges forward. Riku swings his sword with fierce determination, prompting surprise from two watching girls who note his speed. The older man observes that Riku's speed after just 1 month is impressive. Though his stance remains awkward, Riku shouts that he's got his opponent. But the older man calmly replies that Riku hasn't improved his stance yet. The older man swiftly counters Riku's attack, causing him to stumble and fall hard to the ground, standing over him. The man explains that against the castle knights, speed alone might overwhelm, but straightforward movements are easy to counter. He smirks, telling Riku to get ready for the next opponent, reminding him that his challenger is just a middle-aged man. A young woman steps forward, gripping her wooden sword tightly and declaring she's ready. The older man notes that after watching Futa fight, she's being cautious. The woman's eyes widen slightly as she prepares to face Riku, who calmly invites her to come at him. The young woman screams a fierce battle cry as she swings her wooden sword rapidly, but the man calmly observes that spears have a wide attack range. He explains she holds an overwhelming advantage only if she fights within her own range. She looks shocked as he prepares to counterattack. The man grabs her arm, warning that once she gets close to her target, her spear becomes weak, frustrated. She throws herself to the ground, exclaiming how maddening the situation is. The man then turns his attention to the next challenger, a girl named Mizuki, instructing her to use the magic he taught her. Mizuki looks nervous as a small fairy-like figure floats beside her. While she recalls noticing another girl whispering after training, she braces herself and shouts that she's ready, splashing water forward with a powerful wave. The man watches with a stern expression. The man deflects Mizuki's entire water attack effortlessly using sword pressure, astonishing the onlookers. He orders her to move on to a higher-tier spell, while Mizuki nervously acknowledges. Water streaks fly toward him as he stands ready. holding his wooden sword firmly. Arrows whistle through the air, their flight swift and precise. The man reflects that using magic from his original world would attract too much attention. So he taught her this world's magic system instead. She has already mastered it, and her archery experience has paid off, making her aim perfect. The man dodges the incoming spell with a grin, declaring that being perfect only makes one predictable. A woman shouts that he dodged the spell, while he urges Mizuki to use the technique they practiced immediately. Mizuki, startled, prepares to act as the man rushes forward, surprised at how far she's come. Mizuki unleashes a powerful water bullet spell, sending a spiraling projectile hurtling toward the man. He reacts with shock, recognizing the magic is coming from her original world. The attack speeds forward relentlessly, catching everyone's attention. The man's stance breaks as the water bullet closes in, and he braces for impact. He manages to block the attack with his hands, but the force of the spiraling water projectile is intense and unrelenting. The man clenches his fist, sweat dripping down his face as he braces himself. Mizuki shields her face with crossed arms, eyes wide with tension. Two others crouch, covering their heads in fear. The man's attack dissipates into the air, leaving an empty space where the spell once was. Mizuki blinks in surprise, questioning if the man canceled her spell. The others echo her confusion, stunned by the sudden nullification. The man explains that spells with equal mana output can cancel each other, but warns against trying to adjust that mid-combat. A small figure scolds him for teaching dangerous tricks, while he grins, teasing that he scared them. The man acknowledges his enduring strength despite the years, noting that 5 years as the hero have left their mark. He admits that without fighting someone truly strong, he can't gauge his real power. He confidently declares he won't lose to kids anytime soon, while the others watch, impressed by his experience. The conversation turns reflective as the man recalls being reverted to age 17 after defeating the Demon King, describing it as being abruptly thrown back. He laments missing a month of school and losing touch with his classmates, who seemed like strangers now, despite the changes puberty and hero experience brought. He affirms that all 3 of them have passed the test to handle the castle's inhabitants. A voice asks if the other is going to the neighboring kingdom, emphasizing that reconnaissance and determining if they're even enemies is the top priority. Suddenly, a man tosses a kitchen knife as a gift, surprising the recipient. The recipient questions the gift's value, while a woman warns not to throw blades carelessly. The knife narrowly misses hitting her, causing her to flinch in alarm. Suddenly, the man grabs both the knife and the woman's arm, causing black liquid to drip from the knife. Both the woman and a nearby man shout in shock and confusion, demanding to know why he is acting violently. The man smirks nervously, holding the knife tightly as tension rises, leaving everyone stunned by his sudden aggression. A kitchen knife falls sharply into the ground, splattering black liquid. A man kneels, clutching his bleeding side as 2 armored figures watch in shock. A woman gasps, trembling as she reaches out, calling his name in alarm. A girl with glasses shouts desperately for the injured man, who grimaces with pain. The woman clutches her face, overwhelmed, while the man smirks with a tense, uneasy grin, his hand stained with the black substance. The man channels a glowing energy into his wounded hand, chanting a spell called Rebirth, Light of Restoration. The black blood drips from his hand, falling onto the ground beneath him as the magic begins to take effect. The injured woman screams, startled by the sudden healing magic. The man explains that the strange sensation in his hand is exactly the point. He's preparing for the possibility of fighting humans someday, facing the brutal reality of stabbing someone and seeing blood spill. A man warns that in a real battle, hesitation can be fatal, especially when fighting humans. A young man and woman realize this means they might end up killing people. The man gestures to the blackened ground where the knife once was, emphasizing the need to act without hesitation to survive. He finishes with a confident smirk, declaring the cleanup complete. The man snaps the knife between his fingers, warning that merely cutting off limbs won't be enough to survive. He insists the enemy must be eliminated completely, or the one who hesitates will die. The girl with glasses watches anxiously as the man holds the young warrior tightly, underscoring the deadly seriousness of the lesson. The girl reflects on how hard it must have been for the young man to cut someone down for the first time. Understanding that he wanted them to experience the harsh reality through his own body, the man apologizes for being too forceful but explains that things are different here compared to Japan. The girl with braided hair demands to know what else he needs to tell her. Suddenly, the girl in armor realizes her panties are completely visible as she sits on the man. Blushing fiercely, she shouts at him to go ahead and die, while others call out to her to stop. The tension breaks with her embarrassed outburst, highlighting the awkwardness amid the serious training. He contemplates deeply, a nosebleed marking his focus. then declares he might have figured something out before leaving this country. The girl with glasses and the girl with braided hair react with surprise, questioning what he means. He confidently states he's got it now, slamming his hand down as a glass shatters dramatically on the floor, underscoring the weight of his realization. The girl with braided hair, Kana, erupts in fury, shouting she's had enough as the boy restrains her and the girl with glasses urges her to calm down. The man accuses the boy of blatantly staring at Mizuki's chest. Shocking the girls, nearby, the princess and her attendants rush in, alarmed by the commotion, while the focus shifts to Mizuki's chest, emphasized by a bouncing motion. Kana lashes out, accusing the man of being a pervert and labeling him every time, while he protests, insisting she's mistaken. The princess watches uneasily as Kana calls the man a sassy little brat and mocks his powerlessness, claiming they're the reason he's still there. The boy tries to intervene, telling Kana to stop, but she screams she's had enough of the situation, her anger boiling over. The man declares he's leaving, telling the princess he'll find his own way back to their world. The princess looks on silently, while the girl with glasses reflects that Mizuki alone is a good enough hostage and that a loud, powerless adult is better off gone. The man's back is turned as he leaves, thinking Kana really sold it with her performance. Kana shouts after him to just get lost and die in a ditch, her fury unabated. The princess warns that the kingdom's situation is unstable and not safe. She questions the man's desire to leave, reminding him that without power, he could die at any moment. He insists he's going despite the risks. Kana angrily demands he apologize, refusing to spend another second with the pervy old man. The man nervously repeats to himself that it's all just acting. The princess acknowledges his decision and promises to respect it. The man realizes she never intended to negotiate peace. Accepting the brewing war, he smiles, pleased he's created an excuse to leave the castle. Kana asks if leaving was the right choice, while others react to the man's departure. The girl with glasses notes he sometimes glances at breasts and butts, which hurts a little. The man admits he can't help sneaking a peek living near high school girls. The girl scolds him not to admit it's normal. He wonders if he should go with Riku. The man worries about leaving the others alone, but the girl insists they'll need him if demons are involved. She's excited to finally go outside. The princess advises holding back on training to avoid escalating the war. The man tells everyone to contact him by smartphone if anything happens. As they prepare to leave, someone calls out for Riku. A knight in armor named Plavas appears, surprising a girl. He teases Kana for getting cocky after a lucky win at a board game and claims he hasn't lost to her yet. Though he might lose to Riku, Plavas presents supplies for the journey, tools, healing potions, money, and then hands something more to the man, who looks serious. The man inspects the gear, impressed by its quality, while Plavas admits he was the one who picked it out. Hoping it helps him survive, the man calls Plavas a good guy, and Plavas smiles, saying he might just be nosy. Plavas questions Riku's actual capability, but Riku laughs it off, calling himself a powerless middle-aged man. Plavas reveals that Yorm left a message through the minister, advising Riku to stop by the Adventurers Guild while traveling. The guild can explain the world outside the castle and help find jobs. Plavas hands Riku a pass that allows him to get through most gates, castle, or border. Noting the kindness of those who issued it, Riku asks what it is, and Plavas explains. Riku admits he thought the princess found him annoying, but Plavas says he was just passing on the message. He almost meddled again for no reason but stops himself, complimenting Riku's smartness with a smile. A knight bids Riku safe travels, warning him not to relieve himself in the wild until he's outside the city. Riku protests the crude advice with a shout. He laughs off the warning, then insists he's out and doesn't need to be seen off. Suddenly, a girl grabs his hand, urging him to take something else with him. Riku notices a school uniform ribbon and wonders if it belongs to Kana. The girl demands he promise to return it and insists they all travel back to Japan together. Riku, flustered, promises while the ribbon is stored away magically. He thinks to himself he needs to learn that trick. Riku calls out to a small figure named Rish, telling her not to die. The group watches as he prepares to leave. With a sly smile, Riku commands the gate to open. The heavy gates begin to lift, signaling the start of his journey. Outside the castle, Riku remarks it's been a while since he traveled alone. A tiny companion scolds him for being loud and popping out unexpectedly. Riku tells her to get back inside as the castle looms behind them, marking the beginning of his solo adventure. A gruff man questions Riku about heading to Erritoria at such a tense time. Riku, relaxed and confident, reveals he's the master of the Adventurers Guild and must report Riku's movements to the castle. He addresses Riku as the Otherworlder, warning that suspicion will arise even if the war hasn't started yet. Riku smirks as the man calls him honest and wonders if he's trying to get reported on purpose. The man confirms Riku has a travel permit allowing free movement within the country and departure. Though using it triggers a report to the castle, he explains the journey. 7 days by carriage to the border, then 5 more days to the capital. Riku asks for information about the Demon King and his forces, requesting a horse. The man recounts how 50 years ago a mysterious race suddenly appeared on an uninhabited island and attacked the southern coastal regions. They brought armies including lesser devils, are tough, intelligent, and wield powerful magic. The once peaceful world plunged into chaos, but neighboring countries have avoided total destruction. So far, only repelling attacks has been possible. Riku inquires if any offensive has been launched against them. The man admits no recent attacks have been launched, only repelling the enemy. Riku thanks him for the information, acknowledging that this is where the hero's role begins. The man reminds Riku that monster numbers have decreased but warns some still lurk outside the city. Riku prepares to leave, carrying his gear as the man waves him off. The scene closes on the guild's exterior, marking the start of Riku's journey. A small creature on the man's shoulder asks what comes next, advising him not to show his face too much. He conjures a rolled-up tent, then mentions he got a tent and preserved food from the guild. Another man says the next step is to get a horse. The man reflects that the street stalls look the same no matter the world, and there's no sign of war. The creature questions if it's really okay to say he's heading to the neighboring country. Worried, he'll report it to the castle. The man explains that the advice to stop by the guild and get a travel permit was not out of kindness but to keep track of their movements. The small creature asks why he still went to the guild despite knowing this. He says he needed information and something else to confirm. The creature wonders what that is, but he says that's for later. They agree the first priority is to get a horse, shown standing among several horses in a stable. Approaching an old man at the horse stable, the man asks about buying a horse. The old man offers a fine horse for 20 gold coins. The man calculates their remaining funds after deducting the cost of the tent and food, realizing buying a horse would almost wipe them out. He suspects the old man is trying to overcharge them since this horse was recommended first and is probably the most expensive. He considers negotiating for a better price. Suddenly, he calls out to get the old man's attention. The old man offers a horse to a young boy who pleads for money to buy medicine for his mother, saying he has nothing left to sell. The old man scolds him, saying no one would buy such an old horse no matter how many times he comes. The boy insists he already tried. But the old man tells him to stop making impossible demands and to go to the butcher if he wants meat. The old man then shoos the boy away, telling him to stop bothering his business. The boy looks dejected, and the man with the small creature watches the scene unfold. A young boy nervously warms his hands over a steaming pot near the stables, surrounded by horses and workers. A man with a small creature on his shoulder watches the quiet street. He reflects that poor children like this weren't uncommon in the boy's previous world. An older man approaches, apologizing for the unexpected interruption. The man asks about the boy's horse, surprised. The man with the creature comments on the boy's self-sacrificing nature despite his tough exterior. The boy leads the horse back to the stable as the man silently follows, finally arriving home. Inside a modest room, the boy gently tends to a sick woman lying in bed, who appears malnourished. The man peeks through the door, recognizing her as the boy's mother. The small creature calls the man a busybody, but he sharply tells it to shut up. The boy smiles as he carries a bucket, while the man stands silently behind him. The man calls out to the boy, who startles and turns. He questions the boy about being at the stable earlier and if he's trying to sell the horse. The boy confirms but laments no one will buy it. He explains his father went to sell vegetables in another town 2 months ago and hasn't returned, while his mother collapsed and they've run out of savings. A man introduces himself as Riku and asks the boy for his name. Learning it is Ted. Riku offers to buy Ted's horse. Surprising him, Ted questions why. Noting the price is enough for a brand new horse with change left over, Riku smiles, saying he likes the horse and will also check on Ted's mother's condition. Riku enters Ted's home, causing a commotion. Ted's mother asks who he is, and Ted explains Riku is buying their horse for 20 gold coins. Riku politely asks to examine the mother, taking her hand gently. Riku casts a healing removal spell, and Ted's mother feels her body lighten. She tries standing. Amazed she can move, Riku advises using the money for good food, warning that without proper nutrition, the illness will return. Ted pleads with him to wait. Riku humbly insists he's just an old man acting on a whim, not a distinguished adventurer. Ted's mother expresses deep gratitude. Riku asks Ted about the town his father went to, near the Erritoria border, called Michelle. He promises to ask around if he passes by and urges them not to worry or travel far. Ted's mother thanks him sincerely. Riku warns the boy to never trust an easy deal again, explaining that if something sounds too good to be true, it's probably a scam. The boy nervously agrees, realizing he just got lucky this time. As Riku rides away on the horse, the boy and a woman wave goodbye, urging him to take good care of Harrier. Under the starry sky, Riku exhales deeply, beginning his journey. The boy scolds Riku for buying an old, frail horse and leaving him broke, but Rika smiles confidently, saying the money was easy come, easy go, and he'll just earn more elsewhere. He encourages the boy to get along with the horse, calling them old man and old horse. A distant figure murmurs Riku's name weakly, growing more urgent. The voice calls out. Noticing Riku looks pale and worried. Riku suddenly jolts awake, gasping and clutching his blanket. A small girl rushes to him, asking if he's okay and noting he was muttering Iris in his sleep. Riku wonders if his dreams about that other world are increasing because he's alone again. Staring pensively as the girl and his horse stand nearby beneath a cloudy sky illuminated by glowing pillars of light. Rish notes they've been traveling 3 days, halfway to the border, and expects arrival soon. He praises Harrier, the old horse, for being surprisingly lively. The girl asks what he means, and he explains using recovery magic keeps the horse going. He recalls Rish saying the princess disappeared after he returned to his original world. Rish remembers she searched for him with Cress and Tilius but vanished. He senses their pursuers have arrived just as the girl questions this. Suddenly, Rish urges Harrier to run and warns not to get separated. The girl reacts in shock as they speed away. Pursuers on horseback chase them relentlessly. Closing in fast, the girl panics, asking what's happening. Rish decides to avoid fighting on horseback and plans to head into the forest. The pursuers acknowledge they can't outrun younger horses but prepare to follow. Rish counts 6 enemies pursuing them. He tells the girl to take care of Harrier as he prepares for confrontation, signaling the forest as their battleground. Surrounded by enemies, Rish questions how they knew of the ambush, noting he never told anyone his destination except the guild master and 2 others. He mocks their obvious attempt to kill him, dressed conspicuously. The attackers confirm someone aware of his route hired them to assassinate him. Rish stands ready, facing the encirclement with determination. A man with a confident, almost sinister smile demands to know who the guild master said their client was reporting to. Revealing he has uncovered the client's identity, a masked assassin, tense and alert, counters that the real question is who will die first, warning that the man with the smile is the one at risk. Suddenly, the man lunges, striking down one of the masked attackers, catching them off guard. The attacker collapses, blood spurting from a fatal wound, while the man calmly turns, gripping his sword with a faint smile. The remaining masked assailants stare in shock as he closes the distance on them. Despite the sudden ambush and injury, he remains unfazed, challenging them with a cold question. Who said anything about him dying? The scene ends with a promise that his true strength will be revealed next time. He grins defiantly, questioning whoever said he was going to die as blood splatters around him. His expression shifts to a mix of frustration and determination as he grips his sword tightly, refusing to give in. The attackers express disbelief, recalling rumors that he was just a powerless commoner despite being armed. One masked assailant is suddenly stabbed through the head. Shocking the others, the man mocks them, calling him a powerless commoner and urging them to stop staring and start swinging. Blood splatters as the fight intensifies, and the man senses the danger but remains confident. Surrounded by 4 remaining enemies, he taunts them to come on. Daring them to attack, they scramble to encircle him, but he fights fiercely, cutting down one attacker and catching the others off guard. The masked assailants are stunned by his skill and resilience as he pushes back against their numbers. The battle escalates with swift, brutal strikes, blood flying as he fights with lethal precision. He acknowledges the challenge of being surrounded by faster opponents but uses the speed difference to his advantage. The masked enemy demands to know who he is, declaring this a fight to the death. The man smiles fiercely, embracing the life-or-death struggle as his blade bites into flesh. He questions why he's smiling while beheading an enemy, blood splattering as the head flies off. A wild grin spreads across his face as he counts down the 2 foes left. He recalls killing someone for the first time, right after starting his journey. The man reflects that the one he killed was the leader of a bandit gang. It was his first time fighting a real person, but even so, a regular man stood no chance against a hero. He covers his mouth in shock, struggling with the weight of the act. The fight continues as the man mocks his opponent's predictable moves, praising the smart charge aimed at the throat. The masked enemy panics, but the man taunts him for being so predictable. He urges the last enemy to come on, confident and unshaken. Memories flood back as he recalls how killing that first traitor, secretly working with the Demon King's army, boosted his fame. Over time, he stopped feeling anything and even began to enjoy the fight for his life. His smile widens, revealing a twisted sense of pleasure in the battle. The masked rider curses and urges his horse to retreat, determined to report what he's witnessed. The battered man mocks him, taunting that running is all he's done today. The rider's eyes widen in shock as he realizes the man can use magic. The man unleashes a magical attack called Water Bullet, sending a spiraling projectile hurtling toward the rider. The rider, startled, watches helplessly as the attack strikes, causing a sudden impact. The battlefield falls silent, littered with fallen enemies and abandoned horses. The man stands alone amidst the carnage, catching his breath as the forest looms around him. Memories flood back to the man as he grips his sword, recalling his life back in Japan where he tried to forget it all. Now, the rush of battle returns, reigniting the deadly tension of kill or be killed. The man's battered face tightens with a fierce yearning as he exclaims he's been craving this feeling. He admits to living a lie just to survive, realizing the truth is that he's already broken. Alone in the forest, he's interrupted by a voice calling his name, asking if he's finished. A concerned figure leaps toward him, calling out urgently. A phone screen lights up, showing a call from Kanna. The man, relieved to finally get a connection, asks her to put it on speaker. He reassures her he's fine, explaining his worry was only for Fuda and Mizu. He jokes about how peaceful things are now despite being broken beyond repair. The man stands outside a tent, finishing the call with promises to talk again soon. He acknowledges his life is falling apart, but appreciates the convenience of smartphones. The small, lively figure beside him comments on how handy the technology is. Night falls over the forest as the small figure asks if he's crying. The man stands silently, his face shadowed, while the horse waits nearby. The quiet tension lingers as the question hangs in the air. The man rides his horse leading a group of horses, noting they have plenty now to sell for cash. A small figure perched on his head asks if he's trading Harrier for a younger horse, but he insists Harrier is his partner after a week together. The man grins confidently, praising Harrier's liveliness. Reflecting on their journey, he realizes they haven't encountered monsters or pursuers lately, suggesting the world might be safer for travelers now. The small figure excitedly spots a town ahead, which he identifies as Michelle Town. The small figure points out that the town is where Ted's father should be, prompting the man to agree they need to ask around. They enter the town, greeted warmly by a local who thanks them. Counting their earnings, the man notes they have about 90 gold coins, enough to be comfortable for a while. He wonders why Ted's father took a job near a war-torn border, considering the town was calm and food scarce. Talking to a local vendor, he confirms the man is known and asks when he was last seen. The man asks the old vendor how much a particular vase costs, receiving the answer of 1 silver coin. The vendor tries to recall when he last saw the person they're asking about, suddenly remembering it's been 2 months since he was seen. The man presses for details, and the vendor hesitates before finally agreeing to throw in another vase. Frustration washes over the man as he clenches his teeth, realizing the vendor isn't giving much away. The man grumbles about the many pots strapped to his horse while a small figure laughs joyfully nearby. He admits the old vendor was sharper than expected, but they still didn't get much useful information. The man recounts that the vase peddler, named Tom's, came from the capital 2 months ago and set up his usual street stand. The story continues as the man explains that a mysterious figure approached Tom's and other merchants, attempting to buy up all their food supplies at exorbitant prices. The merchants followed this man to make a handoff, but after that, he vanished without a trace. No one knows where he went, and no one else seemed to know their destination either. The small figure apologizes to Ted, acknowledging the difficulty of tracking someone after 2 months. With renewed determination, the man announces they are finally heading for Erritoria, the border. The small figure echoes the excitement, and the man admits the vases are heavy for his horse, but he has a plan to stash them with storage magic once they're done. He responds to a teasing comment by firmly stating he does have a use for the vases as they set off toward enemy territory. A monstrous creature is struck by a swirling water attack, forcing it to recoil as others of its kind charge forward. The man reflects that in the kingdom of Localis, monsters were rare, but since crossing into Erritoria, relentless attacks have plagued him day after day. Surrounded by the charging beasts, the man draws his sword, shouting in frustration as a small figure leaps toward the threat. The urgency of the situation is clear as the monsters close and fast. Flashing back a few days, a guard at the Erritoria border questions the man about selling pots in the kingdom. The man, calm and confident, confirms he is a merchant and notes he won't even need a pass to cross. The guard hesitates, worried about the ease of crossing during wartime, but the man dismisses the concern with a smirk. The man contemplates the tense political situation, overhearing soldiers casually discuss a dispute over food and timber trade, downplaying the threat of war. He realizes only a few know that Localis plans to invade and suspects the secrecy explains why someone targeted him despite his apparent powerlessness. Shadows of key figures and a violent scene flash through his mind as he steels himself for what lies ahead. A guard sharply questions if the pots will really sell, warning to mind his own business. The man with the horse scoffs, thinking no one will actually buy them, They just want to get rid of the pots already. He stomps his boot firmly on the ground, signaling determination. Surrounded by monsters, the man swings his sword, lamenting how smooth things used to be. He wonders how many monsters have appeared today as crows circle overhead and boars charge. Catching his breath, he steadies himself, eyes scanning the threat. The man considers that perhaps the neighboring country, Localis, is more focused on monster extermination than his own. Still, the sudden rise in monsters feels unnatural. A small figure atop a boar sniffs the air as the man spots the city walls ahead, signaling they are close to their destination. The man urges the small figure to hide quickly as they approach. He mutters that it's time to start living in hiding again. From the tall grass, they watch a carriage pass by, escorted by armored knights. The man recognizes them as the Erritoria knights, confirming the tense atmosphere outside the city. Armored knights carry a large, dead monster on a cart, confirming their monster hunting duty. Nearby, 2 knights stand alert, unaware of a massive snake slithering through the tall grass. Hidden from their sight, 1 knight notices the snake, but the others remain oblivious. From a distance, 2 knights spot a man shouting warnings about a monster nearby. They wonder who he is as he runs toward them, frustration clear in his expression. The knights react with shock as the giant snake suddenly appears before them. They ask if it has been dealt with and if there are any injuries. The man admits he used magic to handle the threat, assuring them it should be fine. The knights thank the man for his magic, explaining it came from a blind spot they couldn't see. A female knight named Freya introduces herself, praising his skill and assuming he is a renowned mage. The man humbly denies being anything special. While the knights confirm they belong to the Elatria Kingdom's Knight Corps, Freya expresses admiration for his effortless defeat of such a large snake. The man is introduced as Captain Nimrose, a close friend of Brava's who serves in the Elatria Knight Corps. The knight thanks him for saving their lives, but Nimrose downplays it, saying it was no big deal. He orders Freya to load their gear quickly as they prepare to move out, warning that lingering could lead to another attack. Nimrose confirms the rescued girl is indeed a girl, amazed at her resilience despite her small frame. He introduces himself as Riku and invites the man to come with them to the castle. The man admits he knows Nimrose and is from Localis. He reveals he is one of the people summoned by the princess of Localis from another world and urgently needs to speak with the king of Erritoria. The knights remain cautious, lowering their weapons as the female knight explains he is a benefactor. Nimrose acknowledges the delicate situation of a summoned otherworlder dealing with their king. The man clarifies he is not a messenger from Localis and that the princess is after his life, with his companions under house arrest. He requests an audience with the king, emphasizing the urgency. The group moves through a quiet town, contrasting with the turmoil in Localis. Nimrose notes Erritoria is suffering more from the halted trade. The man asks if they will restrain him, but Nimrose reminds him they owe their lives to him and have already expressed gratitude. The scene closes with their steady march toward the castle, tension lingering beneath the calm. The man acknowledges the other's skill with both magic and sword, noting it by his movements. He explains that trying to restrain him would have caused more damage than fighting monsters, which is why the knights lowered their weapons earlier. The knight smiles, urging him not to cause trouble, leaving the choice to him. Another knight quietly thinks the man seems sharp and not a bad person, fitting as Brava's friend. The man jokes about falling for him already, which the knight denies with a flustered reaction. They discuss how the otherworlder looks no different despite the summoning rumors, and the man doubts the king will believe him if his appearance doesn't change. Suddenly, the man calls out to someone named Rish, hearing a girl's voice in response. A small, lively girl named Rish joyfully exclaims her happiness at walking freely in town, surprising the knights. The knights react with shock and confusion at her appearance. While the man and knight exchange amused glances, Rish's cuteness overwhelms them as she is playfully squished and admired, causing one knight to panic. The man introduces the girl as Rish, questioning if creatures like her exist in this world. The knight admits not having seen such beings, at least not in this country. They agree that showing her to the king might convince him, though Rish alone isn't proof of their otherworldly origin. As Rish continues her playful antics, the knights struggle to keep up, telling her to stop while the man smiles at the chaotic scene. A determined figure steps forward, declaring it's time to uncover the truth. The group faces a grand castle entrance as the man vows to discover which side is honest. A small, energetic girl with horns and a fluffy collar cheers him on, ready to find out the real story. A man named Riku introduces himself, confirming he truly came from another world. The king, Zenz, expresses surprise at the tiny girl beside Riku, admitting he didn't know such a small race existed. Zenz formally introduces himself as the king of Erritoria, seated with his wife and daughters watching. Zenz presents his wife Maidli and their daughters, acknowledging the hero's summoning ritual but remains wary. Riku explains they were summoned unexpectedly and still don't fully understand the situation, emphasizing their need for information. With a sly smile, Riku challenges the king, asking what if he is the enemy. The king's daughters react with shock and surprise at Riku's words. Riku stands confidently between the two princesses. One princess raises her hand in a defensive gesture, signaling tension and uncertainty. Riku warns that the king's adorable daughters might lose their heads and bodies in two, implying danger from a foreign man. The king and queen react with alarm and anger, while the daughters echo the shock, questioning what he means. A knight orders Riku to step away from the princess. Riku remains calm, exchanging looks with a man who smiles knowingly. Riku raises his hands in apology, insisting he meant no threat and can handle himself. He sincerely apologizes to the princess, who listens quietly. The knight acknowledges Riku's power as real, and Nimrose confirms the order to stand down. Nimrose admits, with a nervous smile, that Riku could probably overpower every knight in the room by himself. The grand hall is filled with armored knights and royalty, all watching as Riku moves confidently. The king, Zenz, reacts with a gulp, clearly impressed and wary. Nimrose explains that although Riku is strong, there are 3 more people who might someday reach his level. He suggests negotiations could be tilted in their favor by offering some concessions, proposing a potential alliance depending on the information Riku can provide. Zenz reflects on the terrifying power of otherworlders. Zenz loudly welcomes Riku of another world as a guest of the kingdom of Erritoria. Riku stands confidently with a small figure perched on his shoulder, while the king's expression shifts from shock to acceptance. The princess asks if Lady Epicalis summoned Riku to fight the demon lord. A man insists the first thing Epicalis told them was to take out the knights, accusing them of working with the demon lord. Shock ripples through the hall as the king vehemently denies any alliance, citing constant demon attacks on their kingdom. Riku, skeptical, questions the existence of demon attacks, noting this is the first he's heard of it. The king recounts how 5 years ago, Localis demanded they triple food supplies to keep timber trade, a demand they refused, leading to halved exports. Riku explains their land lacks suitable yew trees for lumber, forcing reliance on imports that drain the treasury. Meanwhile, the kingdom's strength wanes as monster and demon raids increase relentlessly. Riku reflects that the deserted streets only on Erritoria's side suggest Localis is behind the turmoil. The king laments fruitless negotiations and hints at looming war, noting the enemy's preparations. Riku warns the princess is eager for conflict. The king reveals their envoy in Localis hasn't reported back, fearing they were eliminated en route. Riku ponders if Localis might be threatened by the demon lord, contrasting with Epicalis's usual kindness. The princess and another noblewoman express doubt over the situation. Riku concludes that if Localis is complicit in the demon lord's plans, war is unavoidable. The king hopes rising monster numbers will slow Localis's advance, but the grim reality of impending conflict hangs heavy in the air. Night falls over the grand castle as someone urges Riku to rest after his journey. The question hangs in the air. What will Riku's next move be? Riku leans toward trusting Erritoria, finding them more reasonable. A companion questions the boldness of the stance, noting how unusual it is for a nation to bring their entire family to meet a stranger. Despite the war between worlds, they plan to keep their distance and might even run if conflict erupts. The question arises if Riku will fight alongside them, but he remains cautious, maintaining his distance from the larger conflict. Riku is shown to his room, with a smirking knight calling him a weirdo. Though under surveillance, he is assured help will be available. Freya, Sable, and Ed are introduced as those in charge. Rish is playfully grabbed by another, causing a brief commotion. Riku relaxes arrogantly, earning a jealous remark from a companion impressed by his skill in both magic and swordplay. The tension rises as a guard questions why Riku is so comfortable in his room, ordering him to behave like the others and do things outside. Riku protests, but the guard insists on keeping watch. Suddenly, Riku falls off the bed, prompting a sharp warning to listen up. A man suddenly pins the girl to the bed, warning that when a girl follows a guy into his room alone, this kind of thing happens. The girl reacts with shock and frustration as he quickly casts a sealing spell, preventing her from escaping. The man taunts her, saying she can't even scream now and blames herself for letting her guard down. The girl's eyes widen in fear and desperation as she struggles silently. The girl quickly seals her eyes with her hand, calming herself. The man advises her to be more careful, saying sometimes things like that happen. Suddenly, a small, energetic figure cheers Riku on, declaring its execution time, surprising the girl who realizes the man was just bluffing. The girl, flustered and embarrassed, yells that she thought he fell head over heels for her charms, but the man angrily demands peace and quiet. The girl playfully tells them to get lost, calling them bits and a stick figure. Later, she quietly knocks on a door, wondering aloud if the war will really happen, prompting the man to ask what is it. He reflects on how 50 years have passed since the demons appeared, noting that the country has avoided human-on-human conflict during that time. Despite holding the title of knights, they are not accustomed to killing. His gaze turns serious as he calls out to Freya. Suddenly, Freya bursts into the room. Alarmed and shouting, both react in shock as something unseen crashes nearby. She urgently questions what is happening, her expression tense and fearful. Freya announces that the enemy has arrived, confirming their presence. The man reacts with alarm, recognizing the threat. Outside, a powerful explosion echoes, and a sinister figure with pointed ears and sharp teeth smiles menacingly. The source of the attack reveals itself. A winged demon woman floats above the battlements, declaring the demons are attacking. Behind her, grotesque stone-like gargoyle creatures stand ready, their eyes glowing ominously as the night sky looms overhead. A sudden alarm rings out. A demonkin raid is underway. The urgency spreads as a woman commands Freya to focus on Riku, who is with them. While they head to the roof, Riku watches intently, seeing this as a rare chance to study the demonkin. Riku insists on joining the fight despite protests, pulling a cloth to cover his face to avoid detection by the demonkin. Freya demands he wait and clear it with the captain, but he pushes forward, determined to act. Freya declares she'll lead the charge, taking full responsibility despite warnings. The cloaked man admires her grit, and Riku prepares, tightening his gauntlet as he steels himself for battle. They rush up a stone staircase lit by torches. Riku reflects on demonkin he faced in his world, varied in form and power, with the more human-like ones holding higher ranks. Some were cunning and dangerous, a reminder of the threat they face now. A cloaked man with a cloth covering his face stands alert at a stone archway. A small winged figure perched on his shoulder. Nearby, a knight leans against the wall, watching the night sky. The cloaked man wonders aloud about the nature of this world's demonkin, pondering their origins and differences. Below, a fierce battle unfolds in a courtyard as armored soldiers face off against towering, muscular stone-like brutes wielding massive clubs. Flying demonkin with bat-like wings swoop overhead, while archers on the battlements launch volleys of arrows at the attackers. The soldiers brace themselves, determined to hold the line against the overwhelming force. Arrows streak through the air toward the flying demonkin, who evade with swift movements. The defenders on the walls maintain their barrage, while the ground troops prepare to engage the advancing foes. The tension rises as the demonkin close in, their numbers and ferocity threatening to overwhelm the defenders. The cloaked man analyzes the enemy types. The huge scaly brute wielding a massive weapon, and the smaller flying demonkin identified as low-tier grunts. He watches as the brute swings its weapon with devastating force, while the flying creatures harass the defenders. The man's sharp gaze reveals his growing understanding of the enemy's hierarchy and threat levels. A smirking demonkin woman with wings and a tail is identified as the boss, accompanied by a humanoid flyer. A hooded figure questions if demonkin are fundamentally the same across worlds, while a small girl remarks that talking about demonkin from another world doesn't sound strange. The hooded figure defiantly declares they will never bow to scum like her. The muscular, bearded King Zen's angrily demands how many times he must repeat himself to the demon consort Akira's. A knight urgently informs Freya that reinforcements have arrived. The winged demonkin hovers above the castle walls, facing the gathered knights. The demonkin woman offers power in exchange for fealty, envisioning the ease of conquering neighboring lands. King Zen's furiously rejects the offer, refusing to hand over his precious daughters to the demon king. The demonkin is shot down again, lamenting the setback with a mocking deer. The hooded figure reflects on the constant nuisance of flying enemies, unable to be grounded or fought effectively. Arrows rain down on the demonkin flyer, who is kept in check by Nimrose and his crew. The figure acknowledges the knight's solid training and their effective efforts to restrain the giant brute wielding a massive club. A knight swings fiercely at a flying fish-like monster, cutting through the air. The hooded figure and a small demon woman observe, noting that Freya is holding her own against the flyers. The hooded figure concludes the knights might manage the flyers alone, implying the real threat is the demonkin woman herself. The hooded figure refuses to jump into the fight yet, explaining he is an anomaly who shouldn't exist in this reality. He insists that the world's problems should be solved by its own people and hopes the knights can handle the battle without his intervention. The knights cheer as they bring down one of the monstrous creatures. One knight taunts the retreating demonkin, urging her to run like always. The demonkin, still hovering, challenges them, asking if they still have fight left. The knights, led by King Zen's, stand united and defiant, questioning if the demonkin truly believes they can take Erritoria castle with such a weak force. The demonkin woman mocks them, claiming men are predictable and easily swayed by praise, her eyes gleaming with malicious delight. The demonkin woman raises a clawed hand, declaring it's time for a reality check. She hovers above the knights, who watch tensely as glowing orbs begin to fall around them, her eyes narrow with cold determination. She unleashes a barrage of fiery magic called Gehenna Flare, raining down intense flames on the knights. King Zen's and his soldiers recoil in shock and pain, the king sweating as he realizes such magic was hidden all along. The knights struggle to shield themselves, battered and bruised, with some screaming in agony. The king raises his arm defensively, eyes wide with alarm as the attack relentlessly continues. Standing alone, the king shouts in disbelief that he is the only one unharmed. The demonkin mocks their earlier retreats, revealing they were mere tricks, and taunts him for believing they fought with all their strength. She warns they should have surrendered while she was still playing nice. King Zen's gasps in shock, realizing the demonkin was holding back all along. The demonkin taunts him, mocking his stubbornness and threatening that losing both his arms might make him more cooperative. Suddenly, an arrow pierces through the king's side, and he screams in agony. The demonkin casually apologizes for hitting his leg, feigning innocence. She grins wickedly, offering to personally rip his arms off, her menace growing as the king collapses, unable to resist. Nearby, a cloaked figure struggles to push forward but fails, while the demonkin helps the injured king to his feet, assuring him she won't kill him yet. He's still too useful. A young knight watches in horror, pleading silently for mercy. The young knight screams out, rushing to strike the demonkin, but a masked ally warns him not to overdo it. The knight's face twists with pain and determination as the demonkin prepares to counterattack. The young knight bursts out with disbelief and pride, declaring he actually wounded the demon consort Akira's. Akira stands tall, expression unreadable but clearly affected. As blood drips from her clawed hand, the knight stares in shock, unable to believe a worthless brat like him could inflict a wound. The demonkin's injury is a serious threat, and the knight's mind races with alarm. Akira's retaliates with brutal force, striking the knight fiercely across the face. He gasps in pain, blood spilling from his mouth as he reels from the savage blow. Nearby, a masked figure watches in horror, eyes wide with shock and helplessness as Freya collapses under Akira's attack. Riku rushes to aid Freya, who is in a dire situation. He worries that if he doesn't heal his wounds while conscious, he'll die. Doubting his timing, he wonders if he jumped too soon. Hoping the locals would solve the problem, Freya screams, "Die!" As she attacks fiercely, Riku steps forward determinedly. A cloaked figure intervenes, shouting he won't let Freya continue. He strikes her hard, causing blood to splatter from her face. Freya is shocked by the sudden counterattack. The cloaked figure and Riku watch as a powerful blast hits the ground, forcing Freya back. The cloaked figure tells Riku to stop talking despite his excitement over their success in wounding the demon. He then uses a healing spell called Fairy Breath on Riku. Riku pants heavily, questioning if he made it in time. The cloaked figure reflects on how his magic differs from this world's. Hoping no one noticed, Freya hovers nearby, preparing to strike again, while the cloaked figure braces for the next move. She recalls the brutal kick to her face, amazed by the strength and speed behind it. The cloaked figure grips a sword tightly, then slashes fiercely, piercing her side. Shock floods her as the blade sinks in. The cloaked figure warns her this trap is too heavy even for knights to handle, challenging her reaction. She shouts in disbelief at his speed and strength. Demanding to know who he is, he attacks again, launching a barrage of sharp projectiles called Hail Cluster. The cloaked figure swings his sword wildly, cutting through the hail of stones with precision. He insists it's safer to push through fear rather than stop. She calls him a fool for charging straight at her, sweat and tension rising. The cloaked figure lunges forward, slashing fiercely at her chest. She barely blocks the strike, gripping his sword with both hands. The intensity of the clash leaves them both momentarily stunned, locked in a deadly struggle. The cloaked figure attacks fiercely, slashing at the demon consort who grimaces in pain and fear. She struggles to react, her mind blank and desperate as the cloaked man taunts her hesitation, sensing her trouble deciding how to fight back. The battle intensifies as the demon consort counters with sharp, rapid strikes, sending shards flying. King Zen's watches in shock from a distance, while a knight urgently urges the king to step down from the arena. The fight's ferocity leaves everyone stunned. The cloaked figure swings his sword with renewed strength, declaring this is the power of people from another world. He feels a new sensation in his body, sharper and more alive than before, Different from the assassins he faced earlier, his resolve hardens as he understands this power. The fight escalates with the cloaked man's nerves sharpening, sensing urgency in every move. The demon consort's eyes widen in alarm as his speed and weight increase dramatically. She realizes the danger growing and panics, knowing the battle is turning against her at a terrifying pace. The cloaked man strikes fiercely, shattering the demon consort's defense as she screams in shock and pain. Her eyes widen in terror, blood trickling down her face, while the attacker's gaze sharpens with deadly focus. The demon consort calls out to a monstrous lesser devil, summoning it to her aid. The cloaked man reacts with a sharp click of his tongue, preparing to face the new threat. The lesser devil lunges at the cloaked man, who stands his ground calmly despite the creature's ferocity. The demon consort hovers above, watching the battle escalate with mounting tension. Gasping for breath, the demon consort wipes her face and steadies herself. She announces her retreat, admitting she came to hurt the king but must withdraw for now. The cloaked man smirks, warning her he'll kill her next time, but then quickly adds he's just kidding as she disappears. The demon consort launches a fierce barrage of fireballs, shouting that her enemies will die right here and now. The attackers watch in shock as the flames rain down, one shouting how cowardly the attack is. The cloaked man warns that the attacks are on a much larger scale than before, questioning if the demon consort will still go easy on him. The demon consort grins confidently, affirming her power as she continues the assault. The demon consort closes her eyes and chants, summoning a powerful magical shield to block incoming attacks. The shield radiates with intricate magical symbols, forming a protective barrier around her. The shield withstands the relentless fireball onslaught, sparks flying as the attacks collide with it. The demon consort steps through a portal, escaping the battlefield, while the attackers regroup, one of them shielding King Zen's from debris. The cloaked man and the small flying creature observe the battlefield, noting the retreat of the other demons. The man wonders if the demon consort escaped. While the creature questions if he used magic, the man admits the demons were formidable, but the creature insists he overlooked something. The man turns to see the aftermath and concludes the case is closed. The man asks the creature not to tell others he missed the demon consort's escape. He admits showing a little magic at the end but doesn't want others to know about the different kind of magic he used. He explains his goal was to retrieve information about the demon lord and other demons, allowing her a false victory. He regrets not catching her alive, recalling how close he came to killing her when Freya's sword broke. Suddenly, someone calls out to him. King Zenz arrives, supporting an injured knight. The king expresses deep gratitude, but the man tells him to stop, saying earlier arrival would have reduced the damage. The king reflects on how amazing Ricciardano is and wonders what might have happened if he hadn't been there. The man remains thoughtful, trailing off. He's still supporting the knight, tells Ricciardano he has something important to discuss. Ricciardano's face hardens with determination as he contemplates what the king will say about his overwhelming strength. The chapter titled Fairy's Breath begins as a man channels magic into a crushed arm, sparking movement in the injured limb. A nearby soldier asks how it feels, and the man excitedly confirms he can move it. The group marvels that the arm, though completely crushed, is healing because all parts remained intact. The man explains that even he can't heal missing limbs but is glad this one is whole. They confirm all serious injuries are healed and minor ones can be handled by themselves. The healer humbly remarks that compared to such powerful healing magic, their skills are useless. Night falls over the castle walls as a man reflects on being summoned by the king. Inside, King Zenz formally thanks the man, addressing him as Lord Riku and expressing gratitude on behalf of everyone. Riku stands before the king and his knights, who look serious and respectful. A small winged creature explains that the queen and princess fled because Riku scared them off, making the place crowded with men now. Riku downplays the thanks, saying he just happened to be there and there's no need for gratitude. The king marvels that no one died in the battle and all wounded retreated. A knight reflects on how chilling it is to imagine what might have happened if Riku had arrived a day later. The old man beside the knight says there's no need to introduce Nimrose again. Another knight introduces Xanash, Jaegun, and Wyler, who lead the respective knight orders. The man recalls seeing some of these knights during the fight and notes their mixed feelings toward him. The small winged creature suggests some think he stole their glory rather than feel grateful, which he brusquely dismisses. The man then states their purpose. They want his help to defeat the Demoness. The king urges him to get to the point. The old man insists that, with the man on their side, they can defeat the Demoness. Asking if he will fight with them, the man hesitates, then firmly refuses. The knights react with shock and surprise. The man explains it was just coincidence that he was there and he only felt like helping. The knight who spoke earlier confirms the man fought alongside them earlier. The knight adds that such good fortune is rare in this world. The man confesses he doesn't originally belong to this world and worries that even if they defeat the demoness, another equally strong foe could appear next time. He might have already returned to his own world, even if they scramble to call him again. The king warns that if they can't handle this situation themselves, they have no future. The small winged creature chides him for being mean again, but he sighs and agrees to stay for now. The man addresses King Zenz directly, saying he still doesn't know if the king is friend or foe. The king reminds him that he was the one who said to offer something in return for making a demand. The man questions what benefit there is for an otherworlder like him in defeating the demoness. Weiler angrily interrupts, but another knight restrains him, telling him to stop disrespecting the king. The king acknowledges that what Ricadano says is correct, speaking to the man as a ruler who governs a nation. He tells him he must be more firm and responsible. The man smiles wryly, while the king admits he needs to become better at negotiations as well. The king contemplates what to do next, considering offering one of his daughters as a benefit, but doubts the point if the man is returning to his world soon. He looks at a chest of treasure and then solemnly refers to the man as Riku, the man from another world. He promises that if the man agrees to help, all of Erritoria will do everything possible to find a way for him to return home. He assures that housing and food will be provided at no cost until the method is discovered, including for the other 3 people from his world. The man accepts the offer with a smirk, saying it sounds fair enough. He counts on them to find information on getting him back and insists that the arrangement must include 3 meals and nap time. The older man enthusiastically agrees, declaring the matter settled. The man rebukes the woman for her cynicism, saying a grown man's heart is complicated and that people can't be left in trouble. The armored knights acknowledge that Freya was hurt but made it in time. So things ended well. The older man calls on Akira's to report, asking what tasks he has to deal with the demoness. The man lists the materials needed: enough scrap metal for 2 swords, several 5-meter lengths of strong rope, and some thin iron wire. The older man asks if he is making something, and the man replies that all materials should be obtainable within the capital. With a confident smile, he orders to declare war on the kingdom of Localis. The armored knights and their leader react with surprise and alarm as someone demands they wait a moment. They question the plan to start a war between humans, especially when it involves countermeasures against demons. A clenched fist confirms the decision firmly. Yes, they will start that war. The man with a confident smirk declares outright that they are starting a war. The narration confirms the target: the kingdom of Localis. Meanwhile, a young man adjusts his clothes in a private room, relieved to have a flush toilet to ease his stress. He reflects on advice from Rika-san to be grateful, but admits he hasn't even left the castle once yet. In a nearby corridor, a frustrated woman vents her irritation at the captain of the knights, complaining about his constant presence at the castle instead of fighting demons. Another woman tries to calm her. While the young man listens quietly, the woman suspects the captain prioritizes training over actual combat, noting she's never heard of him slaying monsters or demons. A group discusses Futakuin being hit on by the magic instructor, Luvin, who is also after Riku. They wonder if she's doing it on purpose or just trying to lighten the mood. They note she seems trustworthy, and Mr. Plava seems nice too. Despite this, they worry since Riku and Mizuki haven't come back outside yet. One insists Riku would warn them not to let their guard down. The girl with glasses points out that although the magic has improved thanks to training, the girl in question still stays holed up in her room all the time. They consider that they've gotten stronger and suggest going out to explore the city. They plan to ask Epikara-sama, who is having dinner with them today. The mood shifts as a stern woman immediately declares that won't happen. The woman firmly refuses, despite protests that Futa has been practicing swordplay combined with wind magic and mastered powerful fire spells. Claiming she can protect herself, she insists no, warning that although Futa may beat an average knight now, she is still no match for the knight captains. The woman questions what they will do if news of the heroes gets out and demons attack all at once, warning that if they can't defeat a knight captain, they wouldn't stand a chance. She asks if staying hidden too long won't likely cause war to break out. She reminds them that revealing themselves to Erritoria was meant to avoid war through their presence, and that is why they must grow stronger as quickly as possible. The young man and 2 girls listen intently as she stresses the urgency. The young man notices something feels off despite logical explanations. Food shortages are said to exist, yet they are fed like royalty, and the knights seem too bored, as if things are too peaceful. The woman suddenly stiffens, grabbing her left arm with a sharp motion. She coldly tells them to enjoy their food while it's still hot. The 3 watch her closely, concerned, as one asks if something is wrong with her left arm. She admits to twisting it when she fell last night and that it seems worse than she thought. She then excuses herself from the meal, leaving the 3 behind. One girl reacts loudly to a sudden noise, while the young man reflects that although they have grown stronger, he questions if demons are truly that dangerous. Another girl wonders if demons would have wiped out humanity long ago if they were that strong. The young man admits they lack enough information and relying on a single source makes their view biased. He recalls why Riku left the castle and begins to understand the importance of that decision. Suddenly, a faint plea for help echoes in his mind. He questions if he imagined it. The group continues their meal, with one girl asking if he said something about humanity being wiped out. The young man tries to brush it off, asking if he was just imagining things. The scene shifts to a group of armored knights, including a bearded man and others, standing solemnly. One says they must pray that war does not break out before Riku returns. The young man's face is shown in close-up, his expression serious and contemplative, as a caption wonders what kind of future he is seeing through those eyes. Alarm spreads as the young man exclaims war might be starting. A woman confirms Localis seems to be the culprit, though she hesitates to fully trust it, declaring their allegiance to Erritoria. A girl angrily questions Riku for failing to stop the war, demanding to know what they were fighting for. The young man wonders what to do if Localis is truly to blame and decides to return for a day, instructing others to stall deployment by causing a fuss. A woman scolds the young man not to dismiss concerns so easily, urging him to report any suspicious changes, no matter how small. The young man reflects on the princess hurting her arm, fearing his worst feelings might come true. He apologizes and acknowledges the gravity of the situation as the others watch anxiously. Suddenly, a voice calls out, announcing Freya's arrival as she tries to enter Riku's room. Riku protests the casual intrusion, ordering to stall the deployment. Confused, he opens the door to see what is happening. Outside, a woman holding supplies questions the chaos, while a man confirms all materials, like scrap iron, are ready. The man then confidently suggests they get started, holding up a package as the scene closes on his determined expression. A man demonstrates how a metal rod magically bends into a hook, impressing a young woman who exclaims in amazement. He instructs them to weave wire into the rope to prepare a trap. The man smirks, revealing a plan to surprise a female demon named Akira's with this device. The scene shifts to a young woman tied up with rope, blushing as someone comments that tying her up is kind of kinky. The man advises using rope alone. Another man reports that the envoy for the declaration of war has just departed and will arrive in Localis in about 10 days. The young woman asks if he is really going back to Localis. The man confirms his return, recalling his statement from the previous day in the audience chamber. He clenches his fist with determination, declaring that they are starting a war. Facing a group of armored soldiers and a seated elder, the man explains that if they defeat the demons first, they won't have to fight both enemies simultaneously. He predicts that once the war begins, demon attacks will cease. Though surprised, the group listens as he vows to stay and prepare for any attacks until the war starts, then return to Localis. A furious soldier accuses the man of trying to take the intel back, shouting insults. The man denies this, calmly stating his plan to first solve the war issue, not the demon one, believing both problems will be resolved simultaneously. The elder demands clarification, asking Lord Riku to explain clearly. A young armored knight solemnly calls out Riku's name, waiting for his explanation. The man ponders if he is being seen as trying to become the villain, smirking slightly. He asserts that Erritoria is the one unfairly pressured, while in Localis, the pro-war faction is led mainly by the princess and a few others. He reveals the war will end if they eliminate the head of the opposition by drawing their forces outside the castle when vulnerable. The man declares his intent plainly, to kill Epicharis. The group of armored soldiers and the elder react with shock and disbelief. Meanwhile, in a separate room, the man holds a chain and is questioned by two others if he is really going to kill her. The man admits he will try to persuade her face-to-face but doubts it will be enough. A young woman quietly murmurs that it's still assassination. He confesses he is already tainted and it's too late for him. He reflects on their country, calling it full of peace-dazed fools even in the other world, but insists he doesn't want others to end up like him. The castle towers loom as a voice reflects on the carefree nature of others, deciding they should be sent home. 10 days pass, marked by the closing of a bag with a quiet resolve. Inside the castle, a man cheerfully announces their farewells and readiness to leave, noting no demon attacks have occurred for 10 days. A small figure remarks on the calm, while the man speculates the enemies might be cautious after fighting him. Thanks to this, others can focus on war preparations. Urgency rises as they call for Riku and agree to hurry back to Localis, hoping to avoid a full-scale clash between armies. A young knight declares his decision to join the effort, citing orders from Captain Nimrose. He questions if he looks like an adventurer, while a companion warns that enemy soldiers cannot wander freely in Localis. The man suspects the real reason for his inclusion is to be monitored in case he acts suspiciously or tries to kill Riku. Riku responds with surprise and asks why he would want to kill him. The conversation shifts to Nimrose, who desires surveillance but knows no one can stop him. A playful figure clings to Riku, while a flashback shows a broken sword once used recklessly with both hands. Riku apologizes for misjudging the weapon's durability, admitting it was a mistake he wouldn't have made before, expressing gratitude for the help but acknowledging his error. A young man announces he'll tweak the sword's design as it glows with magical transformation. Another, surprised, asks what it is. While a small figure rushes forward, the young man blushes, feeling as if he's received a gift from a guy, his heart racing. They prepare to leave, questioning what kind of dangerous gift it could be, as the young man urges to go and the small figure calls to wait for him. Mounted on horses, they decide to head back to Localis. The young man notices a filthy jar tied to the horse and questions it. He explains it's a disguise to appear as merchants and adventurer escorts. In a formal declaration, a noble with curled hair and a mustache announces that the kingdom of Erritoria cannot accept Localis' unjust demands. The declaration escalates to a formal war declaration against the nation of Localis, witnessed by armored knights and courtiers. Erritoria listens solemnly. Shock ripples through the court as they realize Erritoria declared war first. Erritoria urges calm, reminding them of the secret preparations for war. Reports confirm Erritoria's military movements near the border. A masked man is seen leading troops, boosting their confidence, while the court reflects on the unexpected war declaration despite anticipating rejection of their demands. Erritoria bursts into the room with a radiant smile, declaring that the start of war, even if earlier than planned, is a joyous occasion. An older man, she gently urges Yorm to calm down, reminding him she holds full authority in place of her ailing father. Locking eyes with him, she demands his focus, leaving Yorm visibly shaken and speechless. Erritoria commands Yorm to notify the knight order to mobilize immediately, despite his hesitation. He obeys with a wide grin, and she joyfully proclaims the start of a fun war. Meanwhile, back with the young man and his companions, a sorrowful voice echoes as he reflects on the looming war. He pleads for others to realize the gravity of the situation, calling out to a hero as the time for war draws near. At the Localis border, two armored guards notice a pot cellar still unsold. Two travelers on horseback banter. One questions if the other has a new companion or daughter, doubting the claim due to the apparent youth. The younger traveler protests his age, while a guard announces the border is about to close. Another soldier urges them to leave immediately, revealing knowledge of the impending war. The travelers prepare to depart, tension rising as the border shuts behind them. The travelers exchange farewells with the guards, who warn that both armies are already mobilizing and that this area will become the front line. As they ride away, the younger traveler grumbles about looking like a kid, frustrated by the misunderstanding. The road stretches ahead, symbolizing the uncertain journey and looming conflict. The travelers discuss their odd appearance, with one noting they look more like parent and child than lovers. The younger reveals he is 19, surprising the others who thought he looked younger. They question rumors that Erritoria won't be attacked by demons once the war begins, doubting the likelihood given 50 years have passed since demons last appeared. The older traveler reflects on the high odds of such an event, pondering the nature of the threat. The younger traveler explains that humans have fought hard to repel demons, and that Akira's once held back during negotiations to bring Erritoria under her control. Now, it seems demons aim to throw human society into chaos. Images of demons and a scheming figure illustrate the threat's nature. The travelers conclude that if demons are behind the current conflict, their goal is to destabilize humanity, deepening the mystery of the war's true cause. The possibility arises that the demons' plan is to make humans wage war against each other. If so, the demons might be watching from above, waiting. Once the human war begins, demons will be too occupied to launch their own attacks. The idea that demons get busy when humans go to war is considered, though met with some skepticism. Suspicion grows that if Localis is right, Erritoria is working for the Demon King and the demon invasion was a mere farce. The possibility that evidence was faked and Localis played the victim cannot be ruled out. Distrust deepens, with doubts cast on Localis, though maybe the lower ranks remain unaware. Questions arise about why the hero, the demon's natural enemy, would be summoned if Localis truly serves the Demon King. The Localis army is spotted, having advanced closer to the border than expected. The force numbers around 3,000 to 4,000 troops, surprising the observers. Suddenly, a call to Riku rings out urgently. Riku prepares to charge forward, prompting shock and concern from those watching. At Localis Castle, a calm but firm voice demands why two refuse to participate in the war. The response is clear. They will fight to defeat the Demon King but refuse to engage in human conflicts. Despite repeated explanations, the refusal stands. One challenges their readiness, reminding them they've only trained for a month and are far from battle-ready, questioning the boast of mastering powerful magic. The tension rises as accusations fly. They were summoned without permission and now expected to kill people, which is unreasonable. The suggestion to leave the country by force is met with shock. The refusal to stay locked in the castle is stated as one option among others. The conversation darkens as the other side declares there's no choice left. Outside, the two stand silently, wind blowing through their hair, the weight of the situation sinking in. The woman with glasses warns that they need to understand they have no options. The realization hits hard, and the atmosphere grows heavy with the inevitability of their fate. The woman with long hair leans close to the one with glasses, insisting she must come to realize the harsh truth. The sound of hooves pounding the ground signals urgent movement, underscoring the pressing nature of their predicament. A man on horseback recalls that, according to Fuda, Provost should be in the advance unit. He calls out loudly to approaching armored guards, who demand to know who goes there. He announces himself as Riku, a man from another world, and demands to know who is in command. The guards verify the pass looks legitimate and recognize him as Riku. Provost greets Riku warmly, relieved to see him alive. Riku is surprised to learn Provost has a son in this world, noting he was treated like a kid and even misgendered. Another rider shouts at the guards to identify anyone they know. Worried Provost charged in alone and scared him. The group questions whether they are invading Erritoria, but negotiations have broken down. A woman in armor explains she is an adventurer hired as a guard. Asserting her gender firmly, Provost asks about Fuda and the others, learning they remain inside the castle. Reports say they refuse to fight and won't leave their rooms. The man on horseback thinks it's good they're following orders. Provost assures Riku he won't let Fuda and the others fight, having arranged for them to be under his direct command if they join. Riku expresses gratitude for Provost's presence. The group questions whether they will really attack, and Riku reflects on the strangeness of the war and the hero summoning, sensing something unusual about the situation. One man questions if they will blindly follow Lady Epicharis, while another reflects that she has changed, perhaps burdened by leading a nation. The knight insists he fights because his country commands it, refusing to betray his homeland. Another man sighs, calling him noble but wonders if he's truly being honest. The knight reveals he went to Elatria, where the land struggles with rising monsters and demon attacks. He explains Localis raised the trade demands, and Epicharis was the one hinting at war. He presents a letter from Nimrose, asking if the others trust their best friend. The knight declares he's heading back to the castle, leaving the choice of belief to others. As he rides off, the others shout for him to wait, but he ignores them and speeds away. Suddenly, a hostile armored man charges at the knight, knocking him off his horse with a brutal strike, leaving him sprawled on the ground. A man urgently calls out to Freya as a group of armored riders charge behind him. Freya winces, frustrated, as the man orders their horse, Harrier, to fall back. Suddenly, Freya's horse bolts away, leaving her startled and alone. The man catches Freya before she falls, shouting her name in alarm. He quickly checks if she is hurt, relieved to find her bones intact. The sound of the pursuing riders grows louder as they speed toward them. The man and Freya brace themselves, debating their next move. He insists they must escape, but a mocking enemy rider taunts them, doubting their chances on the old horse. The man smirks and asks the rider if he's the one who has been chasing Natsuna. The enemy reveals himself with a wide grin, introducing himself as Resonant, commander of the Crimson Sword Knights of Localis. The man narrows his eyes, preparing for the inevitable clash between the two seasoned warriors. A voice calls out urgently to Mizuki as she stands silently, held by a woman behind her. Nearby, two others watch anxiously. One young man laments that they should have grown stronger, but they couldn't move an inch against their foes. The woman holding Mizuki taunts her, forcing the question: fight Erritoria or leave Mizuki to die and escape? The young man insists they were summoned to obey. Even Mizuki, who isn't a hero, Mizuki declares she's fine and urges Fuda and Kana to run. The group realizes the princess doesn't know Mizuki can use magic. They plan to catch her off guard to find an opening, but Mizuki's calm expression hints she has a plan. The woman presses Mizuki, demanding to know what she will do. Calling her a hero, the others stand ready, awaiting her decision. Mizuki agrees to participate in the war, but only if they promise not to harm her. The woman's expression softens into a smile as she assures Mizuki she will be treated with courtesy. As long as she obeys quietly, the others express relief and understanding as they prepare to move forward. A determined young man announces he will explain the next steps through Minister Yume. The minister nods, telling him to take care of it. A woman with a sinister smile calls him a hero. The sky stretches wide as the name Resonant echoes in the air. Two men on horseback exchange words, recalling chasing after a high school girls, but one grins, making pig noises, revealing the nickname of the other. The man with a confident smirk confirms the name, while their group rides forward, tension mounting. A grinning armored man confronts the confident rider, accusing him of being Riku from another world and praising his smooth talk. The rider explains the minister gave him a pass to return any time. The armored man reveals to Minister Yume that this rider is someone the minister wants dead. gripping his sword tightly. The armored man raises his sword, declaring the end for the rider if he remains alive. Nearby, a subordinate smirks, noting the stupidity of the situation. A swift strike from a boot sends a weapon clattering, as the rider faces the threat of assassination in the midst of war. The rider shouts that he understands, spurring his horse forward as a knight reacts with surprise. The rider insists that killing is easy, but he cannot see the entire knight order as enemies. Another urges him to take down the target, but the rider refuses, explaining that murderers and regular soldiers are technically different and tells Rish to just hide. The rider is called a coward for running off in the middle of a conversation as he flees. The rider blocks a sword strike with one hand, shocking his attacker. He notes the sword is heavier than expected and wonders if he can actually wield it. The attacker presses the assault, but the rider holds firm, protecting the person on his back. The rider fights two armored men charging at him, who shout battle cries. He wonders if the attacker is seeking a fair fight or is simply foolish. The rider calls himself a superhuman fool as he eyes a large rock ahead. A comrade urgently commands him to move forward. The rider and the person on his back rush toward the large rock, dodging an incoming attack. The rider apologizes for making the younger companion take part in the fight at such a young age. Both prepare for the next move as the battle intensifies. Arrows fly toward them as the rider urges Riku to use archery. The rider orders Freya to take the reins, catching her off guard. He declares it's time to fight with no holding back, his hand glowing with power. The rider unleashes a swirling tornado of wind magic, named Wind Lancer, enveloping himself and the girl as they charge forward. The sword is thrown into the whirlwind, spinning with the gale. Enemy soldiers react in shock, one yelling that magic is impossible here. The whirlwind barrels through the battlefield, knocking down foes as archers shout to keep attacking and not falter. Arrows are deflected by the fierce wind, unable to reach the rider and the girl. One soldier realizes the arrows won't hit because of the wind. The rider clashes swords with an armored foe, pressing the attack amid the raging storm. A warrior warns that assumptions on the battlefield can be deadly, emphasizing that except for Fuda and Kana, everyone should be just human. The armored man calls out "Old man" as he swings a massive sword down, but the younger fighter blocks the blow, determined to keep fighting. The older warrior struggles with the heavy sword, surprised the younger man is trusted with assassination. The younger man insists he's not fooled by the princess's strategy and declares he can fight in this war thanks to her. He challenges the older man to die. The older warrior screams in shock and fear as the younger man raises his sword high, preparing a powerful strike. The younger man's eyes glow with fierce resolve, while the girl clings to him, alarmed by the imminent attack. The younger man unleashes a devastating attack called Crimson Blade, slashing through the older warrior, who is thrown back violently, his face twisted in agony and defeat. The younger fighter's fierce strike tears through the older warrior, blood spurting as he screams in agony. The older man collapses, defeated and discarded like a broken puppet. The younger man, eyes blazing with determination, declares that a fool like his fallen opponent doesn't deserve Kana. Two riders approach the fallen knight, one shouting the name resonant. The knight captain lies severed, his arm lost, and the riders grimly declare that having killed the captain, the younger fighter must now be seen as an enemy. A woman with long hair recognizes the young fighter as Riku and acknowledges his extraordinary strength in taking down Resonant so easily. Shock ripples through the group as the knight captain, though gravely wounded, gasps and struggles to stay alive. The companions stare in disbelief, unable to accept the captain's survival. The woman and another armored figure exchange tense glances, overwhelmed by the unexpected turn of events. Inside a room, a young man pounds his fist on the wall, cursing his underestimation of their foes. A woman nearby contemplates whether to act immediately or wait for Rika's return to rescue Mizuki. Suddenly, a phone vibrates with an incoming call, startling the woman as she wonders who could be reaching out at this critical moment. A woman with glasses answers a call, smiling as she hears praise for Mizuki. She reveals she hid her smartphone when she heard Princess Epicalis was coming, fearing trouble. A young man and woman argue over where it was hidden. The woman assures she's unharmed, explaining she was locked in a cell but kept safe here. The woman explains there were no castle guards, so the place might not be a proper prison. She doesn't know the exact location but believes it's inside the castle. She questions why the wicked princess wasn't blasted away with magic. She notes Lady Epicalis's movements are stronger than theirs, and if a fight broke out, everyone in the castle would turn against them. The others express surprise at her calm demeanor. Suddenly, the woman senses someone approaching, whispering a plea to kill her. The others hear the voice too, realizing if they get caught, they might learn something. She decides to observe quietly, activating a hydrosection mechanism. preparing to escape with her strength. She tells the others to report the situation to Riku and ends the call, urging caution. A shadowy figure appears behind the bars, startling the woman. She asks if the figure can really escape, and her eyes widen in shock as she recognizes the person. The one she met in prison. Two figures race on horseback across an open plain, the wind whipping past them as they speed toward Localis. The rider urges the horse, Harrier, to run like the wind, determined to reach their destination swiftly. The group pauses briefly as one pats Harrier, declaring it break time. Concern arises over whether Harrier can hold out until they reach the royal capital. The rider acknowledges the urgency despite worries for Freya. A tense discussion unfolds about whether Provost will continue advancing toward Erritoria. With the odds evenly split, the rider reveals that Mizuki was reportedly detained inside Localis Castle, heightening the stakes. The rider urgently calls Mizuki, confirming he has heard everything from Kana and the others. Mizuki responds, assuring she is safe but seems uneasy. She explains the mysterious device she uses to communicate, a smartphone, which even she barely understands. The group reflects on the strange nature of this technology, with one noting it looks like Mizuki is talking to herself. Inside a dim jail cell, Mizuki speaks on the phone, surrounded by weary merchants imprisoned there. She asks if a man named Thomas, Ted's father, is among them. The men look on silently as the question hangs in the air. The rider's expression sharpens with shock, realizing the significance of this information as Mizuki calls out for Thomas by name. Mizuki confirms her presence, startled by how the rider knows about her. The rider calls out to Harrier, announcing that Mizuki's master has been found. Relief washes over the group as they grasp the gravity of the situation. Mizuki questions why the merchants are imprisoned, and the rider explains it's likely to manipulate public opinion to justify the war by cutting off food supplies and blaming Erritoria. Mizuki senses there is more to the story. She reveals the sick king is also imprisoned, explaining she tried healing magic but his condition is too severe. She admits they were blindfolded upon entry, and she doesn't know the exact location. The rider understands why the king was unseen in the castle. The imprisoned merchants reveal a hidden entrance beneath the castle, triggered by a mechanism on the angel statue in the courtyard. The rider instructs Mizuki to stay put while promising to rescue her. Mizuki quietly accepts, determined to wait for help. The group prepares to enter the royal capital of Localis, aware that the pieces are falling into place for a decisive moment. The rider asks Riku if anything interesting happened, his expression a mix of hope and anticipation as they move forward toward the capital. A sudden smile breaks across the man's face, surprising even himself as he wonders if he was really smiling. He suggests the farce is finally ending, challenging the others to either run or be left behind. The woman calls out for him to wait, but he urges her to hurry. The mood lightens as the man and woman ride together, sharing a rare moment of warmth. The woman smiles brightly, thinking this might be the only time he'll cling to her like this. However, the sky darkens ominously, and the weather begins to worsen. Racing toward the capital, the man urges the horse onward, worried it might not last much longer. The woman riding behind notes he refuses to rest, knowing if the horse stops now, it won't run again. They push forward despite the strain. The horse strains at its limit, its breath heavy as it struggles to keep pace. The man acknowledges that logically, leaving the horse behind would be best, but he hesitates. The woman praises his effort and asks what they should do next, while the man's expression hardens with resolve. The man firmly declares that Harrier is his proud partner and refuses to abandon the horse despite its exhaustion. The woman supports his resolve. They discuss the long journey ahead, estimating a few hours' run to the capital. The man insists he will head out first and tells Freya to let Harrier rest and catch up later. Freya responds with a quiet acknowledgement, readying herself. The man pulls out a bag of money, assuring he has plenty to offer. He explains there's a kid named Ted living along the road near a farmhouse with a well and roof. He instructs to return Harrier and give them the money, or if they hesitate, just leave it there. They agree to keep the truth about not having saved the kid a secret for now. Freya contemplates the plan, nodding in agreement. The man, addressing Freya, expresses his trust in her and his partner for the first time on this journey. Freya blushes, feeling the weight of the responsibility. He admits that running long distance at his age is tough but necessary. Freya reflects internally that this is the first time Riku has entrusted him with a task. They agree to meet at the Adventurers Guild, or if he's not there, to come directly to the castle. Freya responds with a respectful affirmation. The man bursts forward, carrying a heavy load with fierce determination, telling Freya there's no point in whining now. Freya watches him with concern as he charges ahead. The scene ends with a close-up of Freya's hand gripping her arm, steeling herself for what lies ahead. She wonders if she should get real weapons since Riku told her to prepare her equipment, but she worries that if caught with them, it would be pointless. She fears accidentally killing someone if she's not used to them. Resigned, she decides to give up her uniform and bag and wait for Riku to contact her, though she admits she's restless and bad at waiting. The castle towers loom as the day fades, and someone urges for night to come quickly. Freya arrives early and is greeted warmly, asked if Ted is doing well. They discuss the chaos around Harrier, who was supposed to be sold but returned worn out, and how money was still exchanged. They acknowledge the final battle is near and decide to head straight to the castle, hoping it will settle everything. One wonders if there will be casualties, but the answer is uncertain. At the castle gates, two guards recognize Riku, surprised he has returned. They question him about his status since he's not a hero, but he shows a pass allowing him free entry. The guards remark on the unchanged gatekeepers and wonder what to do with just two of them present. One guard reflects that if it were him, someone with less status than the kids wouldn't be allowed in. A man casts a hypnosis spell, causing two armored guards to collapse instantly. A woman nearby reacts in shock, questioning if such a sleep-inducing spell exists here. The man explains that even in his original world, the spell was linked to crime and required a license to learn. The group decides to leave the gatekeepers unconscious. Despite concerns someone might notice, they agree to proceed quietly. A girl peeks from behind a hedge, spotting an angel statue in the courtyard and excitedly points it out. The man admits he forgot to ask what to do with the statue. The girl expresses surprise, but the man insists it's called a charm. A statue's face seems to speak, explaining that Riku is strong but careless, relying too much on brute force. The group listens intently, puzzled by the charm's meaning. Suddenly, a massive, spiked demonic hand bursts through the castle wall, shattering stone and sending debris flying. The group stares in horror as the monstrous limb invades the royal castle, signaling a dire threat inside. A monstrous demon with a single glaring eye and sharp teeth lunges forward, signaling a sudden attack. A man narrows his eyes in determination, preparing for the threat. Swift motion lines slash through the air as the battle begins. Two warriors confront the demon head-on, one wielding a sword and the other ready to strike. The man recalls that in their original world, such creatures were called lesser devils. The young woman confirms they use the same term here, though something feels different. The demon lets out a chilling scream as it is attacked. The group reflects on the situation, noting that demons have infiltrated the castle despite their low rank. One remarks that things are reaching a critical point. Another points out that Freya's quick hand on her sword hilt shows her skill. The man acknowledges it was a power play that succeeded, as they look toward a dark stairwell leading deeper into the castle. Inside the castle's dungeon corridors, a girl with glasses hears her name called urgently. She responds from behind bars, relieved to be found. The group rushes to her side, checking if she is hurt. The young woman is supported as she smiles warmly, calling out familiar names in gratitude. The girl with glasses assures she's all right, though she feels drained. Freya introduces herself as a knight of the Erritoria Knight Order, telling everyone they can rest easy now. She commands the group to prepare for escape, observing her calm and leadership. The man reflects on how truly knightly Freya is. He then shifts to a determined expression, signaling readiness to move forward. The man, flanked by Freya and the girl with glasses, addresses a crowd behind them, declaring it's time to settle matters. Suddenly, a phone screen lights up with the name Takanagi Rika-san. Nearby, a young man and woman urgently call out for Rika's location, their concern evident. The young man reports from the courtyard of Localis castle, confirming they've linked up with Mizuki. The woman urges the others to get out quickly and meet at the main gate in 10 minutes. They prepare to move, emphasizing the importance of keeping their location obvious if danger arises. As they open a door, a tense figure watches from the shadows, sweat on their brow. Inside the castle, the young man and woman sneak through ornate halls, hearts racing as they attempt their first solo escape. They overhear that the gatekeeper has been taken down and question if the attack is truly underway. The woman notes that most of the Knight Order has been deployed, thinning the castle's defenses exactly as Rika-san intended. A group of armed men rush through a castle corridor, demanding to know where their targets are, confirming they face an entire company. Two young adventurers crouch nearby, questioning if their pursuers are castle soldiers or adventurers. Noting the search doesn't seem focused on Riku and the others, they decide to head for the gate cautiously. Suddenly, a voice challenges them, asking where they think they're going. A stern older man flanked by armored guards appears, addressed respectfully as Yum-san. Nearby, a large crowd of captured people stands in a holding area, their numbers significant. The captives and a few key figures discuss the situation, pondering why so many merchants have disappeared and suspecting the goal might be to start a war. The adventurers confront the approaching group, who call out to the guild master. The crowd reacts to news that the gatekeeper was taken down and questions the truth of the story about Erritoria attacking the castle. One man admits he lied to provoke a reaction. Explaining it was necessary to get them moving, he asks if anyone recognizes someone among the captives, trying to gauge their response. A gruff man with a beard suddenly recognizes someone among the captives, calling out Douglas-san. Others confirm it's Thomas, shocked to see him at the castle after he went missing in Michelle Town. The man demands to know why Thomas is here, grabbing him by the collar. Thomas remains silent as a weary older man clings to his back, and the crowd reacts with disbelief, addressing the man as Your Majesty. The adventurers learn these captives were held in the castle's dungeon, a revelation that shocks them. The leader orders everyone to move out, entrusting the adventurers with their protection under the king and merchant's authority. Despite protests, the order stands firm, and a frustrated guard swears he doesn't understand what's happening but commands the group to leave immediately. The group moves quickly through the castle corridors, determined to link up with Fuda and the others. They resolve to escape the castle as fast as possible. Suddenly, the sharp voice of Kana-chan is heard, prompting the leader to urge haste. A sinister laugh echoes nearby, mocking their urgency and cold-heartedness. Outside, a cruel figure confronts the adventurers, accusing them of abandoning Mizuki and calling them cowards. The adventurers retort fiercely, challenging the accuser's morality. The villain laughs maniacally, declaring that defiant brats must be punished and orders his soldiers to capture them. The adventurers exchange surprised glances, realizing this enemy is far more belligerent than they expected. Arrows rain down from the castle walls as the adventurers face overwhelming numbers. A woman shouts for everyone to retreat, shocked by the sudden attack. A powerful blast erupts from a man's hand, creating a massive tornado of fire that scatters the enemy. The woman smiles tearfully, realizing the magic was stronger than expected. The man praises Kana-chan for her loud voice that revealed their location. She's surprised by how loud she was. The castle defenders are stunned by the powerful magic and demand to know who cast it. The man calls out defiantly from the battlements, questioning why the enemy has come. The man tosses a travel permit scroll to the defenders, reminding them he was given permission to leave. He demands to know why they thought he was dead, his expression confident and challenging. The castle commander is shocked and uneasy at his presence. The man apologizes to Kana-chan for killing her boyfriend, clarifying he's not her boyfriend. Kana-chan is stunned. While others rush forward, relieved to have caught up, the commander demands to know how they escaped the dungeon, his shock deepening as the reunited group stands before him. An explosion startles the castle defenders, who fear an enemy attack. They call out in alarm, questioning what just happened. A man calmly notes that all the key players are gathered, implying a planned confrontation. The man demands answers from the minister about the king and merchants imprisoned in the dungeon and the ongoing war, insisting on a sensible explanation. The crowd, made up of adventurers, knights, soldiers, and commoners, listens intently. The minister remains silent, prompting the man to decide to confront the ringleader directly. The man identifies the figure standing above them as Lady Epicalis, the princess. The crowd reacts with shock and disbelief as he reveals her true identity. Princess Aquilas of the Magic Darkness, the demon who has been attacking Erritoria. The princess, Aquilas, stands confidently under the full moon, smiling ominously. Kana-chan and others are stunned by the revelation that the princess of Loc Eris is the feared Aquilas, marking a pivotal moment as all the key players have now assembled. The woman named Akiras feigns ignorance, but the crowd knows she's playing dumb. She's confronted with the truth, and a man pulls the hood of a young warrior's cloak, revealing his identity. Shock spreads as she admits she was caught off guard. The young warrior's face is bruised and determined, while Akiras' expression shifts to disbelief and anger. Akiras' face twists into a sinister smile as she declares, "Well then," and commands a small flying creature named Rish to attack. Rish leaps forward eagerly, and Akiras unleashes a devastating spell, Gehenna Flare, sending a barrage of fiery projectiles toward the defenders. The defenders scream in terror as the massive magical attack rains down, their own magic proving ineffective against the overwhelming firepower. The crowd watches in awe and fear, questioning if this woman is truly Lady Epicaris. One woman's eyes widen in disbelief, unable to reconcile the scale of the attack with the identity of the attacker. Amidst the chaos, the young warrior dodges Rish's assault and strikes back fiercely. Akiras recoils in shock, demanding to know how he can fight so well and why he is so strong despite being just an otherworlder. The confrontation intensifies as the truth behind the masked man's power begins to unravel. A man questions if the princess is fake, unsure whether it's possession or transformation, but insists she is the enemy. The woman with long hair and claw-like nails smirks confidently, declaring her hostility. The man explains it was clear Localis desired war, noting monsters and demons moved conveniently for her. He recalls recent hints of war and the princess's eagerness, emphasizing suspicion that the others might be on the demon side. The woman reacts with surprise to his mention of expression. He reveals her expression first tipped him off. He clarifies the expression was the same one used when looking down on people. The woman smiles softly, then suddenly looks shocked. The man accuses her of manipulating them, claiming otherworlders unfamiliar with this world's circumstances should have been easy to control. The man demands to know Akira's goal, accusing her of turning heroes into pawns of the Demon King, summoning heroes as allies, and starting wars to make humans fight each other. He calls out her roundabout methods, saying exterminating humans with demon power should be easy, while the group watches tensely. The woman reacts with horror to the idea of exterminating humans, exclaiming how terrible it is. She reveals that human suffering and despair fuel the demon's power, and humans will continue to suffer under their control rather than be destroyed. She mocks them as sacrifices for the Demon King, laughing at their failed escape despite the chance to join his power. Kana-chan realizes the reason they weren't killed immediately after imprisonment was to be used as sacrifices. The woman quietly admits it's the same cruel fate for all. A man questions why the demons don't simply dominate humans quickly and keep them as livestock if suffering is their power source. The woman and an older man stand silently as he wonders if the Demon King needs sacrifices because he isn't in perfect condition. The woman reacts with shock at this suggestion. The woman snarls in frustration, calling the man annoyingly clever. She declares that everyone present is going to die anyway and dismisses the situation with a wild gesture. Announcing the start of the party, a man with an eye patch stammers in surprise, while two others look on with confusion and fear. Suddenly, a monstrous transformation overtakes the man with the eye patch, his body sprouting grotesque, feather-like appendages. Kana-chan and the others shout his name in alarm, bewildered by the terrifying change. Chaos erupts as the transformed figure moves violently, prompting cries of confusion and fear from the group. A monstrous lesser devil emerges, shocking everyone as it reveals itself among the soldiers who were normal moments ago. A man urgently orders adventurers to evacuate with the merchants and king. A woman screams in terror as the devil lunges forward. The man charges at the lesser devil with a fierce strike. While the others brace themselves, the devil's grotesque form twitches violently as the woman covers her mouth in shock and disgust. The man reflects that if someone he knew just moments ago turns into such a creature, the reaction is understandable. The group confirms it was Yamsan who transformed, and despite attempts, turning these lesser devils back to normal is impossible without killing them. The woman acknowledges the wisdom of the man's words, while a long-haired figure contemplates the situation, questioning the identity of the man who knows so much about demons. A confident woman explains that whether someone can be used as a vessel depends on willpower and magic resistance. She taunts another woman, Lady Epicalis, lamenting that if she were weaker, she could have become a beautiful lesser devil form like this. Lady Epicalis looks shocked and speechless at the cruel remark. The group watches in shock as Riku lunges fiercely at the lesser demons, striking one with a powerful blow. He commands Riku to take on Akira's while he handles the other three. Riku, surprised but encouraged, repeats the word reliable to himself, stealing his resolve. With a confident smile, Riku challenges Akira's to come at him now. Akira's appears, flanked by shadowy demon figures, and apologizes for the wait. The man demands more information about demons and the Demon King. Pressing for details, Akira smirks, declaring the service period is already over, signaling the fight is about to escalate. She taunts Riku, reminding him that the body he fights belongs to the princess and questions if he can truly hurt her. The battle intensifies as Riku strikes swiftly, but Akira evades with a sinister grin. Suddenly, a man bound and gagged reacts in alarm to the ongoing fight. She accuses Riku of planning to kill the princess as well, but Riku remains indifferent, revealing he fell in love in another world. He coldly admits to killing the girl possessed by a demon, showing no remorse. The tension between them thickens as the moon rises over the battleground. Under the full moon, Riku confesses coldly that long ago, for the sake of the world, he killed that girl. Shock and sweat break across the possessed princess's face as she processes his words. Kana-chan and the others hear the confession, questioning if Riku really killed someone he loved. The truth settles in as they confirm it. Riku killed his lover. The silhouette of that fateful moment is cast against the castle walls. Riku calmly explains he only met the princess and her companion 2 months ago and has never met the real princess. He warns he wouldn't hesitate to strike them down. The princess, stunned, demands if this is his second or third time in another world. He replies with a chilling smile that nothing is truly a first experience anymore. Raising his sword, Riku declares he has no use for Akira's if no more information is given. He bids a cold goodbye and strikes down. While the possessed princess snarls in frustration and rage, Riku clashes swords with the long-haired warrior, their blades sparking fiercely, shock ripples through the onlookers. Kana-chan, the armored woman, and others, who watch the intense duel unfold with wide eyes. A confident man greets the long-haired fighter with a grin, calling out, "Yo!" The warrior narrows his eyes and responds coldly, "So you came, Pravith?"